Sleep matters. The thought that bends space. Imagine if a single thought could curve the structure of reality itself. Picture someone lying awake in the middle of the night, not moving, not speaking, just thinking. In that silence, something strange begins to happen. The walls seem to stretch, the ceiling feels farther away. The space in the room no longer feels fixed. It is as if the mind is bending space itself, not through some sci-fi trick or machinery, but through pure mental focus. There's an old idea in physics. Matter tells space how to curve, and space tells matter how to move. But what if thought can do the same? What if your attention is a kind of invisible gravity that shapes the way space behaves around you? When you are fully present, time slows down. But when you drift or worry, things speed up or get lost. We know this feeling. You stare at a clock, and it barely moves. You blink during a busy day, and hours have passed. The passage of time is not just external. It is entangled with thought. Thought is not small. It is not a whisper inside your skull. It is a vibration that moves through your entire nervous system, and if you pay attention, it also moves the world around you. Not by pushing it physically, but by warping your perception of space itself. And perception is how reality arrives at your door. Sit still for a moment. Focus deeply on a single object. A candle, a dot on the wall, a sound. Watch how your awareness begins to pull the object closer without you moving a muscle. The boundary between you and that object begins to disappear. You are no longer just watching. You are merging. And as that merging deepens, the space between you and that object dissolves. Thought has collapsed the distance. Now imagine doing this not with one object, but with every object in the room. Let your attention drift from one thing to the next. The edge of the bed, the hum of electricity, the rhythm of your breath. With each shift, you are redrawing the room, not physically, but mentally. Space responds. It becomes softer, less structured, less absolute. The ancient mystics said that all space is consciousness stretched thin, and when you focus deeply, you thicken it again. You draw it closer. You change its shape. Modern science may not say it this way, but even in quantum mechanics, the observer is not separate. The measurement changes the thing being measured. The intention of the mind alters the behavior of particles. That is not poetry. That is physics. So what happens when your thoughts are chaotic? When you are anxious, angry, fearful, then space feels narrow. The room becomes a trap. Everything feels closer in the wrong way. You are boxed in. Your mind is bending space inward. But when you are calm and focused, space opens. It expands. It gives you room to breathe. This is not metaphor. This is practice. You can test it right now. Sit still. Take a slow breath. Think of something peaceful. Let it grow in your mind. Watch the space around you shift. That is thought-bending space. You do not need a telescope or a spaceship to explore the universe. You need stillness. You need presence. You need the ability to hold a thought so gently that reality starts to lean toward it. Space is not fixed. It is not neutral. It listens to you. It bends in quiet ways. And you are the architect of its curve. Let your next thought be gentle. Let it move slowly. Watch what happens around you. The world may not twist or fold like a movie, but you will feel something shift. A lightness, a soft echo of space folding inward and outward in response to the shape of your mind. The thought that bends space is not rare. You have it. You always did. The shadow that reflects first. Picture this. You are walking in a long corridor lit by a soft orange light. Before you even round the corner, something flickers on the wall ahead. It is not your body. It is your shadow. Somehow, it reaches the corner before you do. You stop. But your shadow keeps moving. For a brief moment, the shadow is not a reflection of you. It is a preview, a hint of who you might become, before you even arrive. This is how the mind works. The shadow is the unconscious part of you. The emotions you do not speak, the thoughts you push aside, the reactions you hide. But just because you do not see them clearly does not mean they are not seen. In fact, the shadow often shows up before the real self does. It arrives first in conversation, in silence, in stillness, in reaction. Have you ever walked into a room and felt like you were being watched, even when no one looked at you? That is your shadow speaking, not the one behind you. The one within you, the one that leaks through your posture, your hesitation, your tone of voice. It speaks before you speak. The shadow that reflects first is the you that cannot be hidden. It is made of small fragments of memory, fear, repetition, and truth. It moves faster than the conscious mind. It feels the shape of a room before you understand it. It judges before you can explain why. And because of this, it teaches you things the conscious mind often misses. But most people run from their shadow. They want to show the best version of themselves, the polished one, the strong one, the calm one. But here is the secret. The shadow is not your enemy. It is your earliest reflection. And it reflects things honestly. If you are scared, it will show. If you are unsure, it will speak. Not with words, but with presence, with tension, with weight. This is why self-awareness is not about controlling your image. It is about becoming friends with your shadow, watching it, listening to it, asking it why it moved first, why it whispered that name, why it flinched at that sound. When you learn to reflect with your shadow instead of against it, you gain a new kind of power. You become more whole, less reactive, more complete. Try this. Sit in front of a mirror in a dark room with just a single light behind you. Watch your own silhouette. Notice how it moves even when you try to stay still. That is the shadow reminding you that motion begins before choice. That emotion leads reason. That instinct walks a few steps ahead of logic. Your thoughts are late arrivals. Your shadow has already passed through the door. It shows up when you least expect it. And if you learn to work with it, instead of pushing it away, it can teach you to arrive before you even speak. To know the room before stepping into it. To feel the truth before it is explained. The shadow that reflects first is not broken. It is your early warning system. It is the part of you that never lies, even when you do. And if you listen to it, not fear it, you will become something more complete than reflection. You will become awareness itself. The mirror that erases time. Imagine a mirror so ancient that it does not show your reflection. Instead, when you look into it, everything disappears. Your face, your name, your memories, gone. And in their place is silence. Not the silence of a quiet room, but the silence before time began. A silence that does not move forward or backward. A silence that just is. This is the mirror that erases time, not with magic, not with force, but with presence. Because time is not a clock. It is not seconds or hours. It is thought layered on top of thought, memory stacked upon expectation. And when all thought stops, time dissolves. Sit still. Breathe in slowly. Close your eyes. You are not thinking of yesterday. You are not imagining tomorrow. You are just here. In that moment, what time is it? There is no answer. The clock does not exist in stillness. Time cannot survive where awareness is full. This is what the mirror teaches. When you stare into yourself long enough without judgment, something strange happens. You do not see your age. You do not see your past. You do not see the pressure of the future. You see nothing. And in that nothing, everything becomes light. Have you ever noticed how time flies when you are joyful, or how it drags when you are anxious? That is not a trick. That is the truth. Time is made of emotion and attention. It bends under the weight of your focus. The mirror that erases time does not erase events. It erases your grip on them. It melts the need to control the story. It lets you sit inside a moment so deeply that time forgets to tick. Try it now. Remember a moment of stillness, a time when you were fully absorbed, a sunset, a deep conversation, the sound of rain. In that space, you were not counting, you were not aging, you were not waiting, you were being. This is the erasure, not of self, but of struggle, not of memory, but of measurement. The more you sit with this kind of awareness, the more you realize that time is a surface, and you can fall beneath it, into a space where things are not rushed, where the moment is endless, where you can breathe without reaching. The mirror does not lie. It just removes. It removes what you think you are supposed to be. It removes the urgency, the judgment, the layers of noise, until only presence remains. And presence is not part of time, it is outside of it. To live in that state does not mean you abandon the world. It means you stop being its prisoner. You walk calmly. You speak slowly. You love gently. You are not racing. Because the mirror taught you that the race was never real, the vacuum that bleeds matter. Imagine a place so empty that it holds the silence of 1,000 universes, a place without air, without light, without motion. It is not just the absence of things, but the absence of anything that could even hold a thing. This is what we call a vacuum. But now imagine this emptiness bleeding, not metaphorically, but physically. Matter appearing inside it from nowhere, from nothing. A drop of something leaking out of what should be absolutely nothing. In classical thinking, nothing is nothing. A void is a void. But in the strange world of quantum physics, even nothing is not empty. Even what we call a vacuum is alive. It hums beneath stillness. It flickers beneath silence. And sometimes that flicker becomes a birth. It becomes matter. Picture this. You have a perfectly sealed chamber, cooled to almost absolute zero, emptied of every molecule. A physicist looks at this vacuum and smiles, not because it is empty, but because they know it is not. The vacuum in quantum terms is a field, and fields are never completely still. They are full of potential, full of fluctuations. These quantum fluctuations are tiny, random trembles in the field. Most of the time they cancel each other out, but sometimes they do not. Sometimes they align just enough to birth a particle and its twin, an antiparticle. Matter and antimatter, born from the womb of nothing. These particles do not stay long. They appear, then vanish. They pop in and pop out. It is like reality allows a brief loan from the universe, but then demands it back. These are called virtual particles. They are not supposed to be real in the classical sense. But in the vacuum, their brief appearance is enough to leave marks. They affect the energy around them. They can even shift the position of atoms near them. So what does it mean when we say the vacuum bleeds matter? It means that the universe allows creation without source. It means that what we once called nothing is actually a hidden sea. A sea that moves without being seen, that stirs without reason, that gives birth without cause. Now extend this to the whole universe. The cosmos began, according to our best understanding, in a burst of expansion, the Big Bang. But what came before? Why did it happen at all? One idea is that our universe was born from a quantum fluctuation, a bubble in a larger nothing, a ripple that grew so fast it became space and time. It became us. So if matter can bleed from a vacuum, then creation might not need a creator. It may need only a moment of imbalance, a brief twitch in the silence, a spontaneous gift from a vacuum that was never truly empty. And this thought leads to an even deeper silence. If matter can be born from nothing, then what else is possible? If emptiness can give, then how much of what we see was once invisible? Maybe the vacuum is not dead space, but sleeping energy. Maybe it is not the end of something, but the beginning of everything. The vacuum that bleeds matter is not just a scientific idea. It is a reflection of something hidden in all of us, that even in stillness, something stirs, that even in silence, something speaks, that even when we feel empty, there is creation waiting. What if the next idea, the next moment of change in your life, comes from your own vacuum, from your own silence, from your own space that you thought was void? Embrace that space. Do not rush to fill it, because sometimes something powerful grows in what you think is nothing. The clock that counts backward. Picture yourself walking into a room where all the clocks move in reverse. The seconds tick down. The minutes unwind. The hours dissolve into the past. You stand there, confused, watching time move not forward but back. Your first instinct is to fix it. But what if the clock is not broken? What if it is showing you something about time you have never considered? Time is something we trust. We believe it always flows forward. It pushes us from birth to death, from sunrise to sunset, from beginning to end. But physics is not so sure. In fact, many of the deepest equations in the universe do not care about direction. They work the same whether time is moving forward or backward. So why do we feel time move only one way? The answer might lie in something called entropy. Entropy is a measure of disorder. A glass shattering has higher entropy than a glass sitting still. A clean room has lower entropy than a messy one. The second law of thermodynamics tells us that entropy tends to increase. Things go from order to disorder, from neatness to chaos. That rise in entropy is what gives time its arrow. It is why we remember the past but not the future, why we age, why we die. But this is not because time itself is moving forward. It is because entropy is. Now imagine a universe where entropy decreases, where things go from mess to order, from dust to design, from brokenness to beauty. In such a world, time would seem to move backward. And the clock would not be lying. It would be counting down toward the beginning. This is not just science fiction. Some theories in cosmology suggest that the universe might one day reverse its expansion. If it does, time might reverse too. Some physicists even believe that parts of the universe, perhaps far beyond our reach, are already doing this, running in reverse, living backward. But here is the paradox. If time reversed, would we notice? Or would we live our lives backward, thinking it is forward? If you are born with memories of your death and grow younger every year, would you still feel like life is moving forward? The clock that counts backward is not just a physics puzzle, it is a mirror. It asks us why we are so sure about the direction of our own lives. We often think of life as a climb, forward, upward, better. But what if the real growth is in return, in remembering, in going inward instead of outward? Sometimes we try so hard to escape the past that we forget its value. We push forward through pain instead of understanding where it came from. But healing can sometimes feel like rewinding, like retracing the steps of time, like returning to what we once were before life changed us. So maybe the clock that counts backward is not broken. Maybe it is showing us something sacred, that not all progress is forward, that not all healing is future-based, that sometimes to become whole, we must go back to truth, back to origin, back to silence, and from there begin again. The mass without a body. Imagine something with weight but no shape, something you can measure but never touch, something that bends space, causes gravity, and influences everything around it, but you can never point to it and say, here it is. This is the mystery of mass without body. It is not science fiction. It is the strange truth of our universe. Let us begin with what we mean by mass. Mass is not the same as weight. Mass is the amount of matter in something. It is also the thing that resists motion. The reason why pushing a truck is harder than pushing a bicycle. But where does mass come from? Long ago, Scientists thought mass was just a measure of stuff. The more stuff you have, the more mass. But then came particles, and fields, and a deeper understanding. Now we know that mass is not just the sum of ingredients. It is something more abstract, more invisible. At the heart of this mystery is something called the Higgs field. It is an invisible field that stretches across the universe. Like air, it is everywhere. But unlike air, you cannot feel it directly. When particles move through this field, they slow down, they drag. That drag is what gives them mass. Without the field, they would move at the speed of light. They would be weightless. They would be without substance. So in a strange way, mass is not about what a thing is. It is about how it interacts with a hidden presence, a silent field, an invisible ocean. Now imagine a particle born from pure energy. It appears in a high-energy collision. It has no shape, no volume, yet it has mass. It influences gravity. It curves space, but there is no body, no size, just a point in a field. This is not just a theory. It is observed in particle accelerators. It is measured in cosmic experiments. The universe is full of particles with mass, but without bodies. And then there is dark matter, a form of matter that outweighs all the stars and galaxies we see. We cannot see it, we cannot touch it, but we know it is there. It holds galaxies together. It bends light around it. It has mass, tremendous mass, but no body. It does not shine. It does not speak, but it shapes everything. So what does it mean when we say mass without body? It means there is more to reality than appearance, that what influences the world is not always visible. That power does not always have form. And maybe this applies to life too. We often think we need to look a certain way to matter, to be noticed, to be real. But maybe your true mass is not your form. Maybe it is your gravity, the way you influence others, the way your presence is felt, even when you say nothing. You do not need to be loud to be powerful. You do not need to be seen to be felt. You do not need to have a body to have mass. Like the hidden field that gives everything weight, your presence may shape others in ways they cannot explain. You may be the invisible force that holds someone together, the unseen influence that pulls someone back from despair. The mass without a body is not absence. It is the quiet strength of something too deep for form, too real for shape, too essential to vanish. The observer that collapses light. Imagine you are staring at a single beam of light shining through a tiny crack in the wall. Nothing else moves. The room is still. You lean forward and focus your eyes on that thin ray. Suddenly it flickers. Not because something changed in the environment, but because you are watching it, and your attention alone changed its path. In the world of quantum mechanics, there is a strange truth. When no one observes, particles behave like waves. They spread out. They exist in many places at once. But the moment you observe, the wave collapses. The particle chooses a location. It stops hiding. It behaves. As if the universe itself is waiting for a witness to decide how it should act. This idea is not just about tiny particles. It is about consciousness. About how your presence shapes what is real. The observer is not passive. The observer is part of the system. When you look, the world responds. Think about how many times in life this happens without you realizing. You enter a room, and people suddenly shift their behavior. You make eye contact, and the energy changes. You focus deeply on a memory, and it becomes clearer. That is, you collapsing the possibilities into one version of reality. But this also means something deeper. Until you choose to observe something, it exists in uncertainty. The feeling you are ignoring, the question you are avoiding, the choice you are delaying. All of these live in a state of wave. Only when you observe, when you truly pay attention, do they become real. Observation is an act of creation. Not creation of matter, but creation of meaning. When you observe your emotions, they settle. When you observe your thoughts, they slow. When you observe your breath, it deepens. This is not imagination. This is how your nervous system reacts to awareness. Many people live as if the world is fixed and separate from them. But you are not a passenger. You are a participant. Every glance, every focus, every moment of deep attention collapses a piece of the infinite into the definite. This is why presence is powerful. Not because it changes others, but because it changes the nature of what exists in that moment. Light itself waits for you to look, and when you do, it chooses a path. So what happens when you stop observing? When you drift through life without paying attention, then everything becomes wave again. You lose shape, you lose grounding, you float in probability, in unfinished stories, in vague emotions. To collapse light is to clarify, to ground yourself in what is, to bring meaning into a moment that would otherwise remain blurry. Practice this. Sit silently and observe a single sound. Let your attention fall on it without judgment. Notice how the act of observing gives it a shape. It becomes not just a sound, but a message. Do this with your body, with your feelings, with the people around you. What you observe is what becomes real. The observer is not separate from the light. The observer gives the light direction. And you, whether you realize it or not, are always shaping the beam. The constant that changed. Picture a mountain that has never moved for millions of years. Now imagine waking up one day to find it has shifted, just slightly, but enough that the world notices. That is what it feels like when a constant changes. Something you believed was always the same suddenly moves. In the world of physics, constants are sacred. They are the numbers that define how everything works. The speed of light, the charge of an electron, the gravitational pull between objects. These numbers are the foundation. They are not supposed to change, but what if they did? What if one morning the speed of light became just a little faster? What if gravity pulled a bit less? Reality, as we know it, would change in an instant. Galaxies would bend differently. Clocks would tick out of rhythm. And all the rules we thought were fixed would begin to bend. Now imagine this happening inside you, a belief you have always held, a rule you thought was unbreakable, a story you never questioned. Suddenly, it shifts. Maybe someone said something, maybe you saw something differently, and now that internal constant, the one you built your life around, no longer feels certain. This can be terrifying. When something stable moves, it shakes everything else. But it is also how growth happens. The constants in your mind are not written in the stars. They are habits of thought, patterns of emotion, assumptions formed through repetition. And when life forces you to question them, you have a chance to change not just what you think, but how you experience the world. Ask yourself this. What is something you believe will always be true? That you are not enough? That people cannot be trusted? That time is running out? These are your internal constants. They define how your world operates, but they are not eternal. They can be rewritten. The beauty of change is that it begins with noticing, with a single doubt, with a question that does not go away. And once that crack forms, the constant begins to shift. Some people resist this. They try to hold on to the old numbers, the old truths. But when a constant wants to change, it will, whether you let it or not. So instead of resisting, what if you welcomed the shift? What if you saw the movement not as loss, but as evolution? Then even the most unsettling changes become openings, new paths, fresh patterns. You are not here to be fixed. You are here to transform. And transformation means allowing even the deepest truths to evolve. The constant that changed is not a threat. It is an invitation to let your mind breathe, to let your beliefs stretch, to let your future be written by something other than your past. Change does not destroy you. It reveals the parts of you that are ready to expand. Even the mountains shift. And when they do, the whole world learns to move around them. The equation with no left side. Picture a chalkboard filled with a long equation, symbols and numbers, variables and signs. But when you look closely, something feels off. There is no left side, no beginning. Just an equal sign and a result. No hint at what caused it, only the outcome. This is how many moments in life arrive. Not as stories with explanations, but as results without reasons. You feel something deeply, but you cannot trace it back. You experience a change, but you do not know what started it. It is as if the equation skipped its first half. In traditional math, every equation has two sides. One side causes, the other side shows the effect. But in life, the causes are often hidden, unconscious, silent. You see the effects. You feel the results. But the origin stays invisible. This can feel unfair. You want to know why. Why the mood changed. Why the opportunity vanished. Why the heart hurts. But sometimes there is no left side to find. Sometimes the universe hands you only the outcome and asks you to work backward with presence and patience. The equation with no left side teaches acceptance. Not passive resignation, but active attention. If you cannot see the beginning, then focus on the result. Learn from it. Adjust to it. Let it speak. This equation also reveals the power of intention. Sometimes, what you experience is not the result of something outside you. It is the expression of something you have been carrying silently. A memory, a fear, a dream you have not spoken. And when it finally shows up, it surprises even you. This is the mystery of existence. It does not always make itself explainable. It gives you results and waits to see how you will respond. Do you panic? Do you question? Or do you pause, breathe, and begin to build from what is in front of you? You do not always need to know the cause to create meaning. Sometimes life is not a full equation. Sometimes it is a fragment, a flash, a result that arrived without reason. But here is the gift. You can write the left side yourself. You can look at where you are and ask, what kind of thoughts lead here? What kind of actions might balance this? What can I choose now to turn this moment into something whole? Life will keep giving you answers before questions, results before explanations. But if you meet those moments with awareness, they become more than confusion. They become portals. Not everything has to make sense right away. You can live inside the equation even without the left side. You can let the mystery breathe. You can move forward not because you understand, but because you trust that the next line is yours to write. The equation with no left side is not incomplete. It is an invitation to begin. The particle that remembers the future. Imagine a single particle sitting in a quiet chamber. You observe it, track its movement, study its path. But then something strange happens. The path it takes seems influenced by a choice you have not yet made. A decision you will take in the future seems to reach back and affect the present behavior of this tiny piece of reality. How can that be? How can something so small know something you have not yet done? This is not fantasy. It is part of what is called the delayed choice experiment, a real phenomenon in quantum mechanics, where particles like photons appear to behave differently depending on whether or not you choose to observe them. But the twist is that your choice can be made after the particle has already passed through the experiment, as if it somehow waited to know what you would do. In the world we are used to, time flows in one direction. The past causes the present shapes the future. That is the order we trust. But quantum mechanics tells a stranger story, one where the future might have just as much influence on the present as the past. A particle that seems to remember not what has happened, but what will happen. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that particles exist in a kind of timeless state until we observe them. They do not settle into one reality until we look. And when we do, it is as if they pick a path that fits everything across time, past, present, and future, all work together. The particle moves in a way that keeps the story smooth from beginning to end. This opens a door to something quietly profound. Maybe the universe is not just unfolding from behind us, but also pulling us forward from what lies ahead. Maybe each moment is shaped not only by memory, but also by destiny. Now imagine this in your life. What if your actions today are quietly shaped by the future you are meant to meet? What if your intuition, your sudden ideas, your gut feelings are whispers from what has not yet happened, but already exists in potential? What if you are walking not just into the unknown, but into something that already knows you? This does not mean everything is set in stone. It may be that the future is just one of many possible echoes. But even an echo can guide us. Even the possibility of a future can pull the present in its direction. Think about the times you changed your path without knowing why. The moments when you walked away from something or towards something for no clear reason, and later it all made sense, as if the future was reaching back, nudging you gently. The particle that remembers the future reminds us that time is not a straight line. It is a web of connection, a dialogue between what was and what could be, and we are not just stuck in the middle. We are participants. We are listeners. We are receivers of something greater than the now. And maybe, just maybe, this means you are already in touch with the life that is coming, not by force, not by certainty, but by resonance, by a silent memory of a future not yet lived. Let yourself be pulled by it. Let yourself listen. You do not have to know exactly where it leads. You only have to trust that there is more to time than direction, more to you than memory, and more to this moment than what you can see. The gravity that falls up. Picture a world where you drop a stone and instead of falling down, it floats gently into the sky. Not because the wind catches it or because it is light, but because gravity itself is reversed. A force we thought always pulls down now pushes up. At first, this feels like a dream, a fantasy, but it opens a question that is worth asking. What is gravity really? And why do we believe it always behaves the way we have seen it? Gravity is one of the oldest forces known to humans. We feel it every time we drop something, every time we walk, every time we jump and come back down. But understanding it is not as easy as feeling it. Einstein gave us a beautiful picture. Gravity is not a force that pulls, but a curve in space. Massive objects like stars and planets bend space around them, and smaller objects simply follow those curves. We fall not because we are pulled, but because space itself is shaped in a way that leads us downward. Now imagine that space could be curved differently, that instead of bending inward like a valley, it bent outward like a hill. The same rules apply, but the path leads in the other direction. Instead of falling in, things fall out. This is not just a playful thought. In certain extreme conditions, such as near exotic matter or in theoretical models like wormholes or white holes, gravity can behave in unexpected ways. There are regions in our math where gravity might repel instead of attract, where up becomes more natural than down. But the gravity that falls up is not just about physics. It is a metaphor for those moments in life when things rise when we expect them to fall, when, instead of being pulled down by pressure, we rise above it. When heartbreak does not sink us, but lifts us into a deeper self, there are times when pain becomes a kind of grace, when loss becomes clarity, when falling apart becomes rising in a new form. This is the emotional version of gravity that falls up. We think gravity should bring things down, just like we think sadness should break us. But maybe there is another kind of pull, a hidden upward gravity inside certain moments, a force that does not crush, but carries. The person who walks through fire and comes out kinder, the soul that loses everything and finds peace, the heart that shatters and then expands to hold more than it did before. These are not ordinary reactions. They are reversals, and they are just as real as the physics we trust. So when something in your life feels like it is breaking, like it is falling, ask yourself this. What if this is not a descent, but a lift? What if the ground you think you are losing is just space being reshaped to move you higher? The gravity that falls up is not common, but neither is resilience, neither is hope, neither is the quiet strength that rises when everything else collapses. You are allowed to be pulled upward, even when the world expects you to fall. Let yourself float if the old pull no longer fits you. Let space reshape around the new version of you, and trust that sometimes the fall is really the rise. The atom that cannot be split. Imagine holding in your hand the smallest unit of matter, a single atom. You know it is made of protons, neutrons, and electrons. You know it can be split in nuclear reactions. You know that breaking it apart releases energy. That is what we have been told for decades. But now imagine there is one atom that refuses. No matter how much energy you pour into it, no matter how deep you look, it does not break. It holds itself together with something more than bonds, something deeper than force, something almost like a vow. This idea is not about any specific element on the periodic table. It is about a principle, a possibility. What if not everything can be broken? What if some things are so integrated, so balanced, that breaking them is simply not an option? In the physical world, we know that some atomic configurations are more stable than others. Helium, for example, is famously stable. Its outer shell is full, and it does not react easily. But we are going beyond chemistry here. We are looking at the idea of indivisibility in its purest form. The atom that cannot be split is a symbol. It is a mirror of integrity, of wholeness that cannot be undone. In ancient times, the word atom came from the Greek word atomos, which means uncuttable. The original idea was that atoms were the basic, indivisible building blocks of nature. Then science advanced, and we discovered that even atoms had smaller parts. But now the idea returns in another form, not in physics, but in being. What inside you cannot be split? What in your soul is indivisible? What part of you remains whole no matter what the world throws at it? There is something within you that cannot be divided. Your essence, your true self, the part of you that existed before the pain, before the loss, before the expectations. It is the part that remains untouched even when everything else is stripped away. It is the calm in the center of chaos, the knowing in the middle of doubt, the stillness at the heart of your storm. This part of you does not need to prove itself. It does not need to change to be enough. It just is. Like the atom that refuses to split, it holds its shape without fear. And the beauty is, this wholeness is not distant. It is not something you have to earn. It is already in you, hidden beneath the layers of roles and reactions and regrets. When life tries to divide you, return to it. When pressure tries to crack you, remember it. When people try to define you, hold to it. You do not have to be everything for everyone. You only have to be what cannot be broken. Because in a world obsessed with control and division, wholeness is a quiet rebellion. And the atom that cannot be split is not a weakness. It is a reminder that sometimes the strongest thing you can be is whole. The force that does not push. Imagine standing on a mountain ledge with the wind rushing past your face. You brace yourself, expecting it to knock you off balance. But it doesn't push. It flows around you. It moves with power, yet it never shoves. That is what some forces are like. They do not force. They influence. We are taught to think of force as something that pushes, pulls, or breaks. But not all force behaves that way. In physics, there are forces that act without contact, forces that move things not by pressure, but by presence. Gravity pulls you toward the ground, but you do not feel it like a push. Magnetism attracts iron, but nothing touches. There are fields that shape without collision. Now think about your own life. How often do you believe you must push to get things done? Push yourself to wake up. Push others to understand you. Push your goals forward. And when you push too hard, what happens? Resistance, strain, exhaustion. But then there are moments when things move without you forcing them. A conversation flows. A task finishes with ease. Someone understands without long explanations. That is the force that does not push. It is not control. It is alignment. You can feel this force when you are in deep focus, when your body and mind are in rhythm, when action arises naturally. You are not dragging yourself forward. You are being carried by something quieter, a pull that is not loud, a power that comes from stillness. This force begins in intention, not the kind that clings or demands, but the kind that holds a direction without tension. Like water flowing downhill, it moves because it must, not because it is forced. In relationships, this force shows up as presence. You do not need to persuade loudly. Your calm energy speaks louder than arguments. People sense truth more clearly in your silence than in your words. That is the subtle pressure of presence. It changes the space without pressing on it. In growth, this force looks like patience. You are not forcing change. You are cultivating it. Like a seed that grows by receiving light and water, not by being pulled open. So how do you access this kind of force? You pause. You breathe. You stop trying to control every detail. You hold your vision with clarity, but without desperation. You listen more than you speak. You act from alignment, not from anxiety. There is a quiet strength in those who do not push. They move with ease, but they leave deep impact. They do not rush, but they are never late. Their force is not seen through effort, but through consistency. The world often rewards loud force, but real change comes from the soft ones, the ones that shape the world without shouting, the ones that move mountains without ever touching them. And when you learn to trust this force, you stop exhausting yourself. You begin to flow with the current you use to fight against. The force that does not push is not passive. It is precise. It is deliberate. And it is yours, waiting to be remembered. When you stop pushing, you start guiding. And when you start guiding, you find that the universe was already moving with you. The spin that refuses to settle. Picture a coin spinning on a table. It twirls faster than your eye can follow, dancing on its edge. You expect it to fall soon, but it doesn't. It spins longer than it should. It refuses to settle. It holds a balance that defies stillness. That is what some energies are like. They do not rest, they revolve. In quantum physics, particles do not sit still, they spin. And this spin is not like a top you can see. It is intrinsic, built in, always in motion. Even when you freeze a particle in space, its spin continues. It cannot be stopped. It defines what the particle is. Now imagine this inside yourself. A part of you that is always moving, a part that cannot be paused by external calm. Even when your body is still, your mind may be spinning. Thoughts circling, emotions shifting, ideas rising and falling without order. This spin is not always chaos. Sometimes it is energy, drive, curiosity. The part of you that wants to explore, that refuses to settle into one identity, one belief, one way of living. The world may tell you to calm down, to choose one thing, to sit still, but the spin inside you says otherwise. It tells you to keep questioning, to keep exploring, to keep dancing between ideas. And that is not weakness. That is movement. That is aliveness. But here is the secret. The spin that refuses to settle only becomes a problem when you resist it, when you try to silence it, when you shame yourself for not being still enough, when you label your energy as too much. What if you stopped trying to settle? What if you made peace with motion? Then the spin becomes your rhythm. It becomes a pulse that drives creativity, passion, depth. You do not have to arrive at a final version of yourself. You do not have to stop changing to be understood. Some souls are not meant to settle. They are meant to move, like the wind, like a flame, like an idea that keeps growing. Try this. Sit with your restlessness. Do not fight it. Watch it. Feel how it circles through your chest, your thoughts, your breath. And instead of trying to control it, follow it. See where it wants to go. See what it wants to create. Stillness is not always the goal. Sometimes motion is is the teacher. And the spin that refuses to settle is not broken, it is alive. Let your thoughts orbit if they must. Let your curiosity rotate. Let your emotions whirl. You are not failing by moving. You are learning a different way to be grounded, one that does not require you to stop, but to revolve with grace. The spin is not here to confuse you. It is here to show you how deep your energy runs. It is not here to disrupt your life. It is here to power it. And once you stop trying to fix what moves, you begin to flow with it. You begin to spin in rhythm. And that rhythm carries you forward without ever needing to stop. The collapse that builds. Imagine a tall tower made of delicate stones. It stands proudly until a wind comes and knocks it down. The pieces scatter. Dust rises. It looks like failure, like loss. But then something unexpected happens. The stones begin to arrange themselves again, not in the old shape, in a better one, stronger, wider, wiser. The collapse did not destroy, it built. This is how many parts of life work. You rise, you grow, you build an identity, a belief, a relationship, a future, and then something collapses. A truth breaks, a plan falls apart, a version of yourself dissolves, and it feels like the end. But collapse is not always destruction. It is often the only way forward, the only way to clear what no longer fits, the only way to find the ground again. In physics, collapse is part of creation. Stars collapse to form black holes. Structures collapse under pressure and reveal deeper patterns. Even in quantum theory, a wave function collapses to give us a clear measurement. Without collapse, there is no form. Without falling apart, there is no clarity. Inside you, collapse comes in many forms: the breakup, the breakdown, the burnout, the silence after a loud chapter. And in the beginning, it hurts, because it feels like losing. But slowly, quietly, the rebuilding begins. You start to see what mattered and what did not. You start to rebuild, not from the surface, but from the soul. And the new structure holds more truth, more strength, more depth. The collapse teaches you what you were clinging to, what you feared losing, what you thought defined you. And once it is gone, you meet yourself without the costume. This meeting is sacred. It is not always joyful, but it is real. Let yourself collapse when you must. Let the old forms fall. Let the masks crumble. You will not be left with nothing. You will be left with foundation. And from there, you will build something better. Try this. Think of something in your life that has fallen apart. Instead of regretting it, study it. Ask what it taught you, what it removed, what it revealed. Then ask what it made room for. Collapse is not the end of structure. It is the end of illusion, the end of assumptions, the end of needing to hold everything together with force. When the collapse comes, do not resist it. Let it open the floor. Let it shake the walls. And then listen. Listen to the quiet after. That quiet holds the blueprint of your next beginning. The collapse that builds does not wait for permission. It comes when it must. And when it is done, it leaves behind the raw truth. And from that truth, everything becomes possible again. The energy hidden in stillness. Imagine a lake so calm that it mirrors the sky with perfect clarity. No ripple, no breeze, just still water. You might look at it and think there is nothing happening. But beneath that surface, a whole world moves. Molecules vibrate, pressure shifts. Tiny currents swirl so subtly you cannot see them. And deep below, an immense weight of water presses outward in every direction. This is stillness. But it is not empty. It is full of energy waiting in quiet. We are taught to associate energy with motion, a running engine, a falling object, a beating drum. But physics tells us that even in stillness, there is energy. Even when nothing seems to move, something pulses underneath. At the atomic level, no particle is ever truly still. Even in what we call absolute zero, where temperature reaches its lowest theoretical point, there is still quantum motion. This is called zero-point energy, the lowest possible energy a quantum system can have. It is not nothing. It is the base hum of reality. Now imagine this stillness inside yourself. A moment where you sit with your eyes closed, your breath soft, your thoughts quiet. To the outside world you appear at rest. But within, something is shifting. A rebalancing, a restoration, a quiet gathering of strength. We often chase energy through movement. We run, we build, we strive. But the deepest kind of energy does not come from action. It comes from stillness. From pausing long enough to listen to what is under the surface. Think about the earth itself. Every now and then, it shakes. We call it an earthquake. But that energy was not created in the moment. It was stored, waiting in silence beneath the crust, pressure building in stillness, until release. The same happens in us. We hold stories. We hold tension. We hold potential. All stored in the spaces between words, in the pauses between actions, in the breath we forget to notice. Stillness is not laziness. It is not the absence of life. It is life in a different form, a slower form, a deeper form. It is where clarity comes from. It is where healing begins. When we rest, we let the body repair itself. When we meditate, we allow the mind to untangle. When we stop talking, we often hear what is most important, but in a noisy world, stillness feels unnatural. It feels like a waste. We are told to hustle, to push, to stay ahead. And so we fear stillness. We fill it with distraction. We escape into noise. Yet every wise tradition, every great breakthrough, every powerful insight begins in stillness. A pause, a silence, a moment where the usual noise stops. Energy is not always loud. It is not always explosive. Sometimes it is soft. Sometimes it is subtle. Sometimes it waits in stillness until you are ready to receive it. So the next time you feel like you are stuck, like nothing is happening, ask yourself this. What if this is not a pause in the journey, but a gathering of strength? What if your silence is not empty, but full? The lake is still, but it is not asleep. Neither are you. The field that fights itself. Picture a field stretching endlessly in every direction. You walk into it and feel a strange pull, not from outside, but from the field itself. It pushes and pulls at the same time. It resists itself. It curves inward and outward. It flows forward and backward. It is not in conflict with something else. It is in conflict with itself. This is not a fantasy. This is the nature of some of the most fundamental fields in physics. In quantum field theory, everything is made of fields. Particles are not little dots floating in space. They are vibrations in fields. The electron is a ripple in the electron field. The photon is a wave in the electromagnetic field. But some fields are not stable. They contain within them tensions, competing directions, internal forces that do not agree. They fight themselves. They create particles by resisting their own shape. They bend reality because they cannot settle into one form. This kind of field is unstable, but also creative. It gives birth to complexity. It generates the conditions for matter to form, for interactions to happen, for structure to arise from chaos. The Higgs field is one example. It fights itself in a way that gives particles their mass. Without this internal struggle, there would be no weight, no resistance, no form. Just light in motion with nothing to slow it down. Now imagine this field as a metaphor for life, for the human experience. We often think of inner conflict as a weakness, as something to avoid or fix. But what if the field that fights itself is exactly what gives us depth? We are not one idea, one identity, one emotion. We are layered. We are full of contradictions. We want comfort and growth. We want freedom and connection. We want peace and passion. These desires pull us in different directions. But this is not failure. This is complexity. The field inside you is not broken. It is dynamic. It moves. It wrestles. And from that wrestling comes something powerful. Insight. Strength. Change. Think about the times you felt torn, between what you wanted and what you believed you should do, between your past and your future, between safety and risk. That fight inside you was not just noise, it was transformation. It was the birth of a new self. If you had no inner conflict, you would be static, unmoving, but you are not. You evolve, you stretch, you grow, because you are a field that refuses to stay still. Even the universe reflects this. It is expanding and cooling, stretching and curving. It contains galaxies pulling away and gravity pulling back. It is not one force, it is many. And it is beautiful because of that balance. So do not fear the parts of you that seem at odds. They are not enemies. They are ingredients. They are the reason you are more than one thing. They are what make you real. Let your field move. Let it wrestle. Let it speak in both directions. That is not weakness. That is the very nature of energy. And from that self-resistance, something brilliant can emerge. The space that folds without edges. Imagine standing on a flat sheet that stretches forever. There is no wall, no border, just an endless plain. Now imagine that this sheet starts to bend. Slowly, silently, it curves inward. Not with a crease or a line, but smoothly, until two distant points come together without ever touching. Space folds, but there are no edges. This is not just imagination. This is the idea behind curved space, a concept that sits at the heart of general relativity. Einstein showed us that space is not fixed. It is not a stage where things happen. It is part of the action. It bends in response to mass and energy, and that bending is what we feel as gravity. So when you walk, you are not being pulled down. You are following the curve of space beneath your feet. When a planet orbits a star, it is moving through a fold in space, like a marble rolling in a bowl. But what happens when space folds in ways we cannot see? When it folds so tightly or so far that it connects distant places in a single move. This is the idea behind wormholes, tunnels through space created by extreme curvature, a fold without edges. In theory, if space can bend enough, it could bring two distant regions close together, like folding a sheet of paper so the corners meet. You do not travel across the surface, you slip through the fold. Now take that image into the mind. What if your thoughts are also part of space? What if consciousness is not just inside your head, but a kind of space that can fold too? Sometimes we feel stuck in one place. A fixed mindset, a repeating emotion, a belief we cannot escape, but then something shifts, a conversation, a moment of stillness, a sudden realization, and space folds. We are no longer where we were. It is not that the world changed. It is that our space folded, without breaking, without edge. This is the miracle of perspective. One shift, and what was far becomes near. What was closed becomes open. What felt impossible becomes natural. You did not escape. You simply folded the space of your mind. We often search for escape routes, for breakthroughs. But maybe the answer is not in leaving, but in bending, in folding reality gently towards something new. Your inner space is not flat, it is alive. It is flexible. It can curve, and in those curves, you find the path that was hidden in plain sight. So when you feel lost, in distance, in time, in thought, remember this. You do not always need a new road. Sometimes you only need to let the space fold, and when it does, you will realize there were never edges, only connections waiting to be seen, the information that escapes the whole. Imagine you drop a page of writing into a fire. You watch it curl and blacken, the letters turning into ash. It looks like the words are gone forever. But what if they are not? What if the information did not die, but simply changed form? What if the fire swallowed it, but could never truly erase it? Now imagine something even stranger. You throw that same page into a black hole, a place so dense that nothing, not even light, can escape. Logic says the words are gone for good. But physics tells a different story. Some of the greatest minds have asked this question. What happens to information that falls into a black hole? Stephen Hawking once believed it vanished, but later he changed his mind. Because if information could be lost, then something about the universe would break. And so the question became deeper. Where does it go? Some believe it leaks out slowly, in the smallest signals, in patterns hidden in radiation. Others think it gets smeared on the surface of the black hole, stored like a shadow, a kind of cosmic tattoo. Not gone, just transformed. This is not only about astrophysics. It is about your own mind, your own life. Think of a memory you thought was lost, a lesson buried in pain, a truth that fell into the darkest part of you. You thought it vanished, but then, one day, it returns. In a word, in a dream, in the way your body reacts to something. That is, information escaping the whole, not by force, not by will, but through subtle signals. Nothing truly disappears. It only hides, and it waits for the right moment to rise again. You may feel like you have forgotten certain parts of yourself, but they are still there, stored in your nervous system, in your breath, in your patterns. Even your silence is full of encoded stories. What falls in does not vanish. What gets buried does not die. It waits. And when you are ready, it emerges. Maybe it comes back as clarity, as wisdom, as instinct. It may not look like the original thought, but the essence remains. This is why healing is not about undoing the past. It is about letting the information return in a new form, one that you can hold without fear, one that teaches instead of torments. The black holes in your life are not ends. They are places of transformation. They swallow what you cannot face, but they also process it. They break it down, and eventually they give it back. You may not recognize it at first, because it comes back softer, in dreams, in feelings, in quiet intuition, but it is there, escaped, freed, translated. So when you feel like you have lost something forever, remember the page in the fire, the page in the black hole. The words may be gone from your eyes, but their meaning is still somewhere, waiting to return. The time that refused to flow. Picture yourself standing in a room where the clocks have all stopped. No ticking, no movement. The hands are frozen, but you are still breathing, still blinking, still alive. What is time, then, if not the ticking? Time feels like a river, always flowing forward. But sometimes, something strange happens. It pauses, or loops, or refuses to move at all. You have felt this. When waiting for news, when holding your breath during loss, when watching someone you love sleep, time does not flow the same. It stretches, or stops. It resists. There are places in the universe where time slows down. Near a black hole, for example, time moves differently. From far away, it looks like everything has stopped, but up close, it keeps going. Just slower. Gravity bends time, but so does emotion. So does consciousness. Your mind is not separate from time. It is the stage on which time performs. And when your awareness shifts, so does the performance. Think about moments of awe, a sky full of stars, the first touch of someone you care for. Time slows. It refuses to rush. Because the moment is too deep. Now think about panic, fear, confusion. Time collapses. Minutes vanish in seconds, or stretch into hours, because the mind has no grip. Time that refuses to flow is not broken. It is teaching you something. It is asking you to listen. It is reminding you that time is not outside you. It is shaped by you. You cannot force time to move. But you can soften your grip on it. You can stop measuring your life in hours and begin living it in moments. You can stop asking what time it is and start asking what this moment is asking of you. Some days will pass like lightning. Some will crawl like molasses. Both are part of your rhythm. You are not a machine built to follow a clock. You are a field of awareness that bends and stretches time by how it feels. Your breath controls the pace. Your focus sets the rhythm. And your presence decides whether time flows or pauses. So when time feels stuck, ask why. Ask what it is waiting for. Maybe it wants you to feel something more deeply. Maybe it wants you to rest. Maybe it wants you to let go of the future for a while. Time is not your enemy. It is not running out. It is not leaving you behind. It is waiting for your presence, for your attention, for your trust. You do not need to chase time. You need to invite it. And when you do, it begins to flow again. Not with pressure, but with peace. Not with urgency, but with rhythm. The time that refused to flow is not a mistake. It is a doorway. And once you walk through it, you understand that time is not a line. It is a feeling, a breath, a song without a metronome, the string with no tension. Picture a string stretched tightly between two poles. It hums when plucked. It vibrates with energy. Now imagine letting go. The string slackens. The vibration stops. But, strangely, it does not fall apart. It stays connected, quiet, loose, still whole. This is the string with no tension. And in the deepest parts of the universe, strings like these may be what reality is made of. Tiny loops of energy, not vibrating with pressure, but existing in possibility. Tension creates vibration, and vibration gives rise to particles. But what happens when the tension is removed? Does the string disappear, or does it simply rest? Now reflect this into your own life. Think about the strings that hold you together, the tension you carry in your chest, in your jaw, in your thoughts. You believe it keeps you focused, driven, alive. But what if it is not the tension that makes you strong, but the connection? You can stay connected without being tight. You can remain grounded without strain. You can live without being in constant stretch. Tension is not always strength. Sometimes it is fatigue, the body clenched, the mind racing, the breath shallow. You think you are holding it all together. But maybe the only thing you are holding is pressure. Try letting go, not of everything, but of just enough. Enough to loosen the mental grip, enough to soften the emotional coil, enough to allow breath. You do not lose shape when you release tension. You return to it. You remember that you are not built to stretch until you snap. You are built to respond, to move, to flow. Some of the strongest connections in life are the ones with no pressure. No need to prove, no demand to perform. They exist because they feel true, not because they are being pulled tightly. Let your thoughts be like that string, connected but not stressed, aligned but not forced. Let your goals be guided by intention, not pressure. Let your relationships breathe. Even in physics, a slack string still holds potential, still holds structure, still holds form. It does not need to vibrate constantly to exist. Sometimes the most powerful energy is the one that waits. So much of your tension comes from forgetting you are allowed to rest, to breathe, to trust. You are not made of wire. You are made of rhythm. And when you loosen the tension, you may hear something deeper, a different kind of vibration, one that does not scream or buzz, but whispers, gently, calmly. A truth that was hidden by the noise of tension. The string with no tension is not broken. It is ready, and so are you. The light that circles infinity. Picture a beam of light released in the middle of endless space. No stars, no planets, just the dark fabric of the cosmos stretching on forever. You expect the light to travel a straight line, to move outward and vanish into the distance. But instead, something strange happens. After a long while, the same light returns from behind you. Not because it turned or bounced, but because space itself is curved. The light kept moving forward, but looped around reality until it met itself again. This is not a trick of imagination. It is a possibility written into the very structure of space. In certain models of the universe, if space is curved just right, light can travel in a circle, a giant loop without edges, no end, no beginning. Light that journeys forever, never stopping, never landing, always returning. In physics, we usually think of light as moving in straight lines unless something bends it. A planet, a star, a lens. But space itself can be curved without any object in the way. And in a perfectly closed universe, a photon could orbit endlessly. This is not a circle drawn in space. It is a circle of space. This endless path of light reflects something deeper. The idea that some truths do not move in a line. They do not progress from A to B. They return. They loop. They reappear in new forms, like seasons, like patterns in your life that seem to vanish but find their way back. Have you ever noticed how certain emotions come back even after you think you have let them go? Or how specific thoughts keep resurfacing even after years? They travel far. They disappear into the dark. But then they circle back. A conversation, a dream, a silence. And suddenly, the light is behind you again. This is not always a burden. Sometimes it is a gift, a chance to see the same thing with new eyes, to meet an old memory with a wiser heart, to revisit a lesson, not because you failed, but because you are ready for a deeper understanding. The light that circles infinity is not lost. It is loyal. It does not seek an end. It seeks connection. It loops, not to trap itself, but to explore forever. And what about you? Are there parts of you that feel stuck in cycles, emotions that repeat, habits that return? Do not see them only as flaws. Sometimes they are messages still in motion, light still circling, trying to show you something from a new angle. Not all progress looks like a straight line. Sometimes it looks like orbit. Sometimes it looks like returning to the beginning, only to realize how far you have come. Infinity does not mean endless distance. It means a loop that never breaks. A path that stays whole even when it feels far. So let the light circle. Let your thoughts return. Let your growth repeat. There is wisdom in the loop. There is peace in knowing you are always arriving, even when you feel like you are going in circles. The light is not lost. It is simply following the curve of forever. The singularity that whispers. Imagine everything that exists collapsing into a single point. Not just stars or galaxies, but space itself, time itself. Everything folded into one spot, with no size, no shape, no direction. No before, no after, only now, only here. This is what we call a singularity, a place where the laws of physics stop working, where gravity becomes infinite, where our understanding dissolves into silence. You might think such a place would roar with chaos, a violent explosion of energy and force. But what if it does not roar? What if it whispers? At the heart of every black hole lies a singularity, a point of no return. We cannot see it, we cannot measure it, but we know it is there, hiding beneath a surface where light cannot escape. And before the universe began, according to our best theories, it too was a singularity, a single point containing everything. Time, matter, space, energy, all held in perfect silence before the first breath of expansion. This silence is not emptiness, it is fullness. It is the density of all things waiting to become, and maybe that is what the whisper is. A quiet invitation. A signal so soft it does not push, it does not shout, it only waits. We live in a world that values noise, action, speed. But the singularity reminds us that power does not always announce itself. Sometimes the deepest transformation comes in stillness. Sometimes the most important shift begins with a whisper. Think about the moments in your life that truly changed you. Not always the dramatic events. Sometimes it was a quiet word, a single thought, a deep breath in the middle of stress, a still realization in the middle of chaos. The whisper does not force, it opens. It creates space where before there was none. Like a singularity birthing time itself, your quiet moments give rise to new worlds. The whisper of the singularity is not weak, it is restrained. It is the kind of strength that knows it does not need to prove anything. And maybe that is inside you too, the part of you that does not shout for attention, that does not demand, that simply knows. The part that sits in silence and carries the weight of the entire self. You do not always need to make noise to matter. You do not always need to act to be powerful. Sometimes, just being still, just listening, just existing with presence is enough. The singularity that whispers is not far away. It is inside you. It is the seed of your deepest self, the core that remains even when everything else collapses. So when the world gets too loud, find that point, return to it, sit with it, and listen. Not everything needs to be explained. Some things only need to be heard. The entanglement that screams alone. Picture two particles on opposite ends of the universe, separated by light years. No signal can pass between them. Yet, the moment you observe one, the other changes, instantly, as if they are connected by an invisible thread, untouched by distance, immune to time. This is quantum entanglement, one of the strangest phenomena in physics, a bond so deep that it defies separation. Two become one in a way that space cannot divide. Now imagine this connection remains. But only one of the particles is ever observed. Only one is ever touched, ever measured, ever known. And yet it keeps reacting, responding, echoing a partner that no one else can see. It is connected, but alone. This is the entanglement that screams alone. A paradox of deep connection and complete isolation. We often think of connection as closeness, as presence, as something we can hold. But what if the deepest connections are not visible? What if you are entangled with moments, people, or places that are no longer near, yet still shape you? Have you ever felt a pull you could not explain? A memory that moves through you like it just happened? A silence that echoes louder than sound? You are not imagining it. Some part of you remembers. Some part of you responds. Like the entangled particle, your soul moves with what it once touched, even if the source is now gone. But what happens when that connection is one-sided? When you still feel the bond, but there is no reply? When you are still reacting, but the other end has gone quiet? That is when the scream begins. Not out loud, but inside. A cry that says, I am still here. I still feel. I still remember. Entanglement does not break, but it can become painful. It can stretch across silence. It can turn the beauty of connection into a kind of echo chamber. And yet, this scream is not weakness. It is proof of how deeply we can feel, how strongly we can love, how far the reach of our spirit can extend. You may be alone in the moment, but your response is real. Your reaction is valid. And that means something in the universe still lives through you. Entanglement that screams alone is not abandonment. It is depth. It is the echo of a bond that was never simple. A reminder that love, once formed, leaves a trace. Let yourself feel it. Do not run from the silence. Listen to what your heart is saying in the echo. It may sound like a scream, but underneath it, there is still a whisper of truth. You are not broken for feeling too much. You are not weak for remembering. You are entangled with meaning. Even when meaning feels out of reach, and in that echo, in that scream, there is still connection, still light, still hope, the reality behind the curtain. Imagine sitting in a quiet theater before a play begins. The curtain is down, hiding everything behind it. You hear faint noises, movement, maybe whispers, but you do not see the stage. You wait, because you know something is behind that curtain, something prepared, something real, but not yet revealed. This is what much of life is like. You move through moments with only part of the picture. You hear hints, you feel something stirring behind your experience. But the full truth stays hidden, behind a curtain your eyes cannot lift. In physics, there is a question as old as science itself. Is the world we see the real world, or just a version of it filtered through our senses? What if all that we call reality is only the front layer? A presentation, a projection, a moving curtain with something more solid behind it. Quantum theory offers strange clues. Particles behave like waves when no one is watching, but they become definite when observed. It is as if reality is waiting for your eyes before deciding what to be. The curtain moves only when you arrive. Now look at your own life, the routines, the thoughts, the roles you play. You wake up and wear a name. You hold beliefs. You respond to the world based on what you expect it to be. But have you ever stopped to ask if that is the real stage? What if there is something else behind the curtain? Not another world, but a deeper version of this one. A reality that does not need names or explanations. A presence that lives beneath all appearances. You can feel it when you stop thinking. When the noise quiets and a deep silence opens, you can sense it in stillness, in the moment between actions. Behind every choice is a presence, not a voice or a thought, but a knowing. The curtain is not there to trap you. It is there to protect the mystery, to allow you to move through this world with some structure, some simplicity. But every now and then, it lifts, during grief, during love, during wonder, and what you see behind it is not another place. It is the same world, but alive in a different way, more real, less explained. Try this. Close your eyes and imagine everything you know falling away. Your story, your age, your goals. Imagine the curtain falling. What is left? Not nothing, but presence, awareness without a center, stillness that watches everything. This is the true stage, and the play of life dances upon it. The characters are not fake. The world is not illusion, but it is a surface. And beneath it, there is something timeless, something that does not shift when your emotions do, something steady, watching. You do not need to rip the curtain away. Just sit quietly and let it move on its own. Let the realness behind it find you, not with answers, but with presence. The reality behind the curtain is not far. It is right here, waiting for you to pause, waiting for you to look not with your eyes, but with your stillness. The path that avoids distance. Picture this man walking through a foggy forest. He is looking for someone. He thinks they are far ahead, so he walks faster. Then he sees a shadow. He runs. But no matter how far he walks, the person he is chasing never gets closer. Finally, he stops. He breathes. He turns around. And there they are, standing behind him. This is the path that avoids distance. It is not about moving forward. It is about moving inward. We think of paths as roads we walk, steps we take, progress we measure in time and effort. But some journeys are different. They do not cover ground. They erase it. They do not take you somewhere new. They bring you back to what never left. In science, especially in the geometry of space and time, there is a concept that surprises the mind. Sometimes, the shortest path between 2 points is not a straight line. Space can curve, distance can shrink, and connections can appear without travel. In the same way, your deepest answers do not come from chasing. They come from stopping, from listening, from being still enough to realize that what you seek is already here. You chase peace by achieving more, but peace does not live in your next achievement. It lives beneath your current noise. You chase love by seeking others, but love does not live in someone else's hands. It lives quietly behind your need to be accepted. You chase meaning in long journeys, but meaning does not wait at the end. It exists in the step you take with full awareness. This path is hard to see because it feels like nothing is happening. You are not moving. You are not winning. You are not collecting new things. But what you are doing is removing the illusion of distance. The space you thought separated you from what you need begins to dissolve. Try this. Sit with a feeling you normally avoid, not to fix it, not to analyze it. Just sit with it. Feel how your need to escape begins to soften. The more you stay, the closer you feel to something real. The path that avoids distance teaches you to stop measuring progress, to stop believing that better is always ahead, to stop moving like the answer is elsewhere. You are not separate from peace. You are not far from clarity. You are not behind in life. You are only distracted. And once you stop chasing, you begin to feel how close everything truly is. The ground beneath your feet is enough. The breath you are taking is the first step, and the path that avoids distance does not move you forward. It brings you deeper. The vacuum full of sound. Imagine floating in outer space. You expect silence, absolute stillness, because in a vacuum there should be no sound, no air to carry the vibration, no medium to move the wave. But then you feel it, a hum, a low, soft frequency not coming from the outside but from within. This is the vacuum full of sound, the space where nothing is supposed to exist, but something still echoes. In physics, a vacuum is not truly empty. Even in the most stripped-away space, there are fluctuations. Particles appear and disappear. Fields vibrate with potential. The silence is not silent. It is full of energy that waits, that flickers, that breathes in invisibility. Now bring this to your own mind. There are moments when you try to be empty, to meditate, to pause, to rest. You expect nothing. But even in that stillness, something whispers, a thought, a sensation, a memory. Sound without sound. This is not failure. This is reality. Even when you try to reach silence, you find that the silence hums. Your consciousness is never flat. There's always some vibration, some presence, some signal. And that is beautiful. Because it means you are alive. It means your stillness is not a void. It is a stage for quiet echoes, messages you do not speak out loud, energies that move below words. The vacuum full of sound is not noisy. It is subtle. It teaches you to hear differently, not with your ears, but with your awareness. It teaches you to feel the presence of something without needing it to explain itself. When you sit alone and you feel something but you cannot name it, that is sound in the vacuum. When you sense someone thinking of you, or remember a moment without prompting, that is vibration without volume. You do not need to silence your mind completely. You only need to hear what is already speaking underneath the surface. Try this. Sit quietly and ask for nothing. Let your thoughts pass. Let your body rest. And listen not for words, but for presence. For the subtle sound of awareness itself. You will find it there. Not loud, not sharp, but steady. Even in your emptiest moments, you are full of life. Even when nothing seems to move, something inside you vibrates with meaning. The vacuum full of sound is not a contradiction. It is a reminder that stillness is not absence, that silence is not blankness, that even the spaces you think are empty are filled with potential. You are not hollow. You are humming. You are not lost in quiet. You are surrounded by invisible music. And the more you listen, the more you remember that the quietest places carry the deepest truths. The ripple with no source. Imagine standing at the edge of a quiet pond. The water is completely still. There is no wind, no falling leaf, no disturbance. Then suddenly, you see a ripple forming, expanding outward in smooth circles, moving across the surface with calm and tension. But there is no splash, no pebble, no trace of what caused it. The ripple moves, but its beginning is missing. It came from nowhere. This is the ripple with no source. And in the world of physics, this is not just a poetic idea. It reflects a real mystery. In the quantum world, particles can emerge without a clear cause, a fluctuation in a field, a momentary rise in energy, and then something appears, a particle, a wave, a shift in space. Just like that, a ripple in reality begins. Physicists have seen this happen in vacuum fluctuations, in the quantum foam that fills the universe at its smallest levels. There is no object to blame, No hand that threw the stone. Just a ripple. Just movement. But it goes deeper than that. There are times in the equations of our universe when something changes and there is no known reason why. A shift in energy, a new configuration, a change in behavior, and yet no force acting from outside. In life, this mystery is just as real. Sometimes change happens in us without a clear reason. A sudden sadness, a quiet peace, a deep knowing. It rises like a ripple with no source. We try to trace it. We look for causes. But nothing fits. Have you ever sat in silence and felt an emotion arrive uninvited, not tied to any thought, not triggered by any memory? It just appeared, a feeling, a presence. And then it moved through you. These are the emotional ripples with no clear beginning. You did not ask for them, but they came, and they carry messages. Not everything must have a loud cause. Not every wave needs a stone. Sometimes life moves through us because something deeper is at work, something not outside, but within. You are more than a system of reactions. You are a field of possibilities. And sometimes that field stirs. Without warning, without reason. This does not make it meaningless. It makes it honest. The ripple that comes from nowhere may be the truest sign of movement, because it is not tied to control. It is not trapped in logic. It simply is. So let the ripple move. Let the feeling rise. Let the thought pass. You do not have to hold it. You do not have to explain it. Just witness it, like watching the circles spread on a still pond. The ripple with no source reminds us that life is not always a puzzle. Sometimes it is a presence, a quiet shift, a reminder that something is always happening, even when nothing seems to be. You are not broken when something stirs in you without a reason. You are alive. You are tuned in. And sometimes that ripple is the beginning of a change you did not know you needed. Let it come. Let it pass. And if it leaves something behind, let it shape you. The particle that never left. Picture this man. He walks through a room and then exits out the far door. Everyone assumes he is gone. But long after he leaves, things keep happening that feel like his presence. A chair still warm. A smell in the air. A sense that he is still near. You go to open the door and realize he never left at all. He was always here, just moving in a way you could not see. This is how certain particles behave in quantum mechanics. They appear to vanish, but traces of them remain. They are not gone. They are simply unseen. And under the surface, they are still shaping what happens. In the famous double-slit experiment, particles act as if they go through two paths at once. Their presence is spread out, delocalized. Even when you think the particle has moved on, the effect of its existence remains in the interference pattern. The quantum world plays by strange rules. A particle does not have to be in one place. It does not have to leave to be gone. It does not have to stay to still be here. It can both arrive and remain. It can touch something and still linger long after it is unseen. And this is not just about particles. It is about memory. It is about presence. It is about people who have touched our lives. There are those who never leave, even after goodbye. Their voice stays in your thoughts. Their habits echo in your choices. Their energy moves in your space like a wave you cannot stop. They are like the particle that never left. It may be someone you lost. It may be someone you outgrew. It may even be a version of yourself that no longer exists. But it is still here, not in front of you, not always obvious, but woven into who you are. We try to move on. We try to close doors. But the truth is, nothing truly leaves if it left something behind. And that is not always a weight. Sometimes it is a gift, a strength, a lesson, a quiet comfort. You are shaped by more than what is visible. You are shaped by presence that continues beyond time. When you feel something unexpected, a sudden warmth, a familiar thought, a soft pressure in the heart, maybe it is the echo of a presence that never left. Not every ending is an exit. Not every silence is absence. In the quantum world, we call it coherence, a lasting connection, an invisible thread, a memory that does not fade. In your life, it is the same. You carry more than you can name. And sometimes that weight is not a burden. It is an anchor, a reminder that you are not alone. Let the particles stay. Let the presence linger. You do not need to forget to move forward. You do not need to release everything to be free. Some things stay because they are meant to. Because they are part of your orbit, part of your design. The particle that never left is not lost. It is simply beyond sight. The frame that sees itself. Imagine standing in front of a mirror. You see yourself. But now imagine that the mirror is also looking at you, not just reflecting, but observing, measuring, thinking. The mirror becomes more than a surface. It becomes aware, a frame that knows it is framing. This is not just a fantasy. In certain ways, the universe behaves like this. It observes itself through us, through consciousness, through awareness. The frame becomes part of the image. In physics, the act of observation changes the system. The observer is not separate from the observed. The frame shapes the picture. The boundary becomes part of the event. In the quantum world, particles exist in many states until we look. Once we measure, they collapse into one. Our observation is not passive. It is part of the process. This leads to a strange idea. Maybe reality is not fully formed until it is seen. Maybe the universe unfolds through the act of witnessing. And maybe the same is true within you. We often think of ourselves as the ones looking out, watching, judging, naming. But what if we also need to be watched? What if a part of us is the frame and the picture at the same time? Self-awareness is the frame that sees itself. The moment you notice your own mind, when you catch a thought and know it is a thought, when you feel an emotion and realize it is not all of you, it is something passing through. This is the shift, from living inside the story to watching the story unfold. And with this awareness comes freedom. Because now you are not trapped inside the picture. You are part of the frame. You are the space in which the image appears. You begin to notice patterns, reactions, beliefs. You see how your mind moves, how your heart responds, and that seeing changes everything. The frame that sees itself does not need to fix the picture. It only needs to be clear, to hold space. In meditation, this is the goal, to become the witness, to notice without judging, to watch without interfering, to let the frame hold the picture gently. But this is not just for meditation. It is for daily life. When you pause before reacting, when you hear your own voice and feel your intention, when you ask not just what you are doing, but who is doing it. This awareness is powerful. It does not control. It invites. It does not demand. It understands. And the more you live from this place, the more peace you find, because the frame does not need to change the image to feel whole. It knows its role. It knows its space. Let yourself be both the image and the frame. Let yourself observe your own story, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Because when you see yourself clearly, something softens. The fear loosens. The noise quiets. You realize you are not your thoughts. You are the space in which thoughts come and go. The frame that sees itself is not confused. It is awake. It is present. And it holds everything with gentle strength. The duality that merges into one. Picture this. You are looking at the ocean under moonlight. The waves rise and fall. There is movement. There is stillness. You feel pulled between opposites, between the light above and the depth below. And then, something inside you softens. You realize they are not two things. The wave and the ocean are not separate. The movement is part of the stillness. The opposites belong to the same whole. This is the duality that merges into one. It is not just about the world outside. It is about how your mind splits things to make sense of them. Light and dark, good and bad, self and other, success and failure. You place them on opposite ends. You build a life around choosing one over the other. But reality is not made that way. It is not divided. It is layered. It is full. The night does not kill the day. It completes it. The inhale is not better than the exhale. They need each other to exist. In physics, this idea shows up again and again. Particles can be both here and there, both wave and point. The electron is not choosing a side. It is both until it must appear, until it must express itself in a specific form. And in your own thoughts, duality plays out constantly. You try to be calm, but you also feel restless. You try to move forward, but part of you wants to rest. You think you must pick one. But the truth is that both exist for a reason. One gives depth to the other. Joy feels deeper because you have known sorrow. Silence feels richer because you have known noise. The merging happens when you stop trying to win the war between sides, when you let both truths breathe at the same time. That is when something new forms, not a compromise, a unity. You can be strong and soft. You can be certain and curious. You can carry pain and still feel peace. You are not meant to be half. You are meant to be whole, and wholeness means embracing both sides. Try this. Sit with two parts of yourself that often argue, maybe the one that wants to stay and the one that wants to leave. Do not force an answer. Just let them speak. Let them exist beside each other. You may feel a discomfort at first, a pull, a tension, but if you stay with it, something gentle arrives, a kind of stillness that does not belong to either side. It belongs to the space where they meet. This is the merging. It does not happen through logic. It happens through surrender. Through the realization that what feels like opposites are often just reflections, two ways of seeing the same light. The duality that merges into one does not erase difference. It honors it. It holds contrasts not as conflict, but as balance. And in that balance, you become more than your parts. You become whole. The silence that shatters atoms. Imagine walking into a room where nothing moves. Not a sound. Not a breath. Just silence so heavy that it wraps around your body. At first it feels peaceful, but then it sharpens. It becomes louder than noise. It presses against you with invisible weight. This is not absence. It is intensity. This is the silence that shatters atoms. Not with sound, but with presence. In the heart of the atom, silence lives. Not emptiness, but stillness. Deep within the nucleus, particles vibrate. But between those vibrations, there is pause, space, quiet. And it is in that quiet that the deepest forces begin. Nuclear energy comes not from noise, but from rupture. And rupture happens when the stillness reaches its breaking point, when something held too tightly lets go all at once. In your life, this silence shows up in different ways. The silence before a hard decision. The silence after a deep truth is spoken. The silence that follows loss. These moments carry more energy than words, because they are full of change, full of potential. You are taught to fear silence, to fill it, to talk over it. But silence is not weakness. It is a container, a mirror, a field where real things happen without distraction. Some of your biggest shifts happened in silence, when no one was watching. When you were sitting alone, not knowing what to do next, and then something broke, not in a violent way, but in a necessary way. A part of you opened, a thought collapsed, a new understanding was born. That is what silence does. It does not scream, it transforms. Try this. Sit in silence with yourself for a few minutes. Not just the silence of your room, but the silence of your mind. Let the thoughts come and go, but do not follow them. Rest in the space between them. Feel how uncomfortable it is at first. Then notice how rich it becomes. That silence is not empty. It is full of vibration, full of stored energy, and when the time is right, it will release what you need. Not all at once, but in precise shatters. You do not need to fear silence. You need to listen to it. Let it speak in the language of stillness. Let it break the patterns you no longer need. Let it shape what comes next. The silence that shatters atoms does not come to destroy you. It comes to clear the way. It comes to remove what you were too distracted to see. And when it is done, you will not feel empty. You will feel new. The space between vibrations. Picture a string being plucked in slow motion. You see the wave travel along it, the rise and fall, the dance of sound. But look closer. Between each peak is a pause. Between each motion is a moment of stillness so brief it almost does not exist. This is the space between vibrations, the invisible rhythm that makes the visible movement possible. All things vibrate. Your voice, your thoughts, your breath. Even the cells in your body move in quiet pulses. But none of these vibrations are constant. They pulse, they rest, they move and pause. And in that pause, something sacred lives. Without the space between, the vibration would blur. There would be no rhythm, no music, no meaning. The silence between beats is what makes a song. In your mind, thoughts come like waves, but between those waves is stillness, a space that holds no word, no story, only awareness. Most people never touch it, because they are always riding the peaks, always caught in the noise. But the real power lives in the space between. It is there that you remember who you are without effort, without identity, just being. In quantum mechanics, particles vibrate as energy fields, but they do not vibrate endlessly. They shift in patterns, in frequencies, and between those patterns is potential, not absence, not nothingness, pure potential. You are not your vibrations. You are the space that allows them, the awareness that holds the movement without becoming it. Try this. Focus on your breath. Feel the inhale. Feel the exhale. Then pay attention to the tiny space between them, that pause, that gap. That is where awareness lives, not attached to anything, just open, just present. When you rest in that space, even for a moment, time slows. The noise softens. You begin to sense life in a different way, not as a rush, but as a rhythm. And you are no longer pulled by every thought. You are standing in the space that holds them all. This is not a trick. This is not escape. This is returning to your center, the place that watches the vibration without being moved by it. You do not need to stop vibrating. You only need to notice the spaces in between. They are always there, offering stillness, offering clarity, offering peace, without needing to fix or change anything. The space between vibrations is not empty. It is full of presence, full of the intelligence that makes movement possible. And the more you visit it, the more you remember that you are not the noise. You are the listener, the witness, the stillness that gives life its pulse, the constant that drifted. Imagine a world where everything is held together by a single number, a value so precise that even the smallest change would tear the universe apart. This number governs the strength of gravity, the way light moves, the pull between atoms. It is called a constant, something fixed, something we believe never changes. But what if it did? What if one day, quietly, without anyone noticing, the constant began to drift? This thought is not just a fantasy. It is something physicists have considered for decades. The idea that the fundamental constants of nature might not be constant at all, that over time they might shift, not in dramatic ways, not enough to notice in daily life, but enough to reshape everything. One of these constants is the fine structure constant. It controls how light interacts with matter. If it changes, even slightly, the structure of atoms would change, The stars would burn differently. The chemistry of life would shift. Some astronomers believe they have seen signs that this constant might have been different billions of years ago. When they observe light from distant galaxies, they see patterns in the absorption lines that suggest the rules of physics might have been different in the early universe. Not by much, just a drift. A small slide in the number that holds everything in place. If true, it means that the universe itself is evolving at a deeper level than we imagined. Not just galaxies moving, stars dying, but the very framework of reality bending slowly over time. And this has meaning beyond science. We often look for something permanent, a truth that never moves, a rule that always holds. A part of ourselves or the world we can anchor to. We crave constants, but maybe the real truth is that everything drifts, even the constants, even the pieces we thought were untouchable. In life, we hold on to values, beliefs, identities. We say, this is who I am, this is what I know, but time shifts everything. What once felt certain begins to blur. What once felt fixed begins to breathe. This is not a loss, it is a growth, a deepening. The constant that drifted is not a failure of structure. It is the evolution of understanding. It is a sign that nothing is finished, nothing is frozen. And maybe that is what makes things beautiful. Not their stillness, but their willingness to move. So if you feel like something inside you is shifting, if a belief is loosening, if a truth is changing shape, let it. You are not breaking. You are drifting. And drifting can be sacred. It means you are alive. You are listening. You are not holding on so tightly that you miss the motion of the deeper current. The constant that drifted reminds us that even the strongest foundations can flow. And that is not weakness. It is wisdom. Let yourself move. Let your truths breathe. Let your understanding unfold. You are not meant to be fixed. You are meant to evolve. The light that carries memory. Picture this. A single ray of light travels across the universe. It leaves a star billions of years ago and finally reaches your eye. In that instant, you are seeing something that happened before the Earth even formed. That light has been moving through the cosmos, untouched, unchanged, carrying with it the memory of a moment long gone. Light does not forget. It holds information. It tells stories. It paints the sky with echoes of ancient fires. Every time we look into the night, we are not seeing the present. We are seeing the past. The stars we admire may no longer exist. Their light is the memory, a message written in photons, a journey through space and time. This is not just poetic, it is real. Telescopes do not just look far, they look back. The deeper we gaze into the universe, the older the light becomes. We are witnessing history with every glance upward. Light moves fast, but not instantly. And that delay becomes a bridge between now and then. It also becomes a mirror of how memory works. Our thoughts, our emotions, our experiences leave traces in us, just like light. They travel, they fade, but they never truly vanish. They live in our body, in our reactions, in the way we speak, the way we walk into a room. We carry memory, even when we are not thinking about it. And sometimes something small triggers it. A sound, a face, a smell. And suddenly the light of memory returns. Sharp, bright, alive. This light does not judge. It does not ask for permission. It simply shows you what once was. And like cosmic light, your memories are not frozen. They move. They evolve as you grow. What once felt like pain might now feel like clarity. What once felt confusing might now feel complete. You carry light, too. Not the kind from stars, but the kind from within. The warmth of moments, the glow of love, the fire of lessons learned. Even in your quietest days, you shine with memories that shaped you. They do not fade, they transform. The light that carries memory is gentle. It does not force. It does not shout. It arrives when you are ready, when the distance has become soft, when the meaning has ripened. And just like the cosmos, you are filled with these lights. Some are bright, some are dim, some are still arriving from the deepest parts of you. So when you feel something rise in your heart, a forgotten joy, a quiet sadness, a flicker of an old version of you, do not push it away. Let it arrive. It is the light carrying memory, and it has traveled far to reach you. The expansion that swallowed itself. Imagine blowing up a balloon that keeps getting bigger. It stretches and stretches. The surface moves outward endlessly. But then, at a certain point, instead of continuing to expand, it begins to curve inward. The space grows so large that it folds in on itself. The expansion becomes a return. The outward movement becomes a swallowing. This is not just a metaphor. It is a possibility in cosmology. The universe is expanding. Every galaxy is moving away from every other galaxy. Space itself is stretching, but some theories suggest this expansion might not go on forever. It might reach a point where the energy driving it slows down, and then reverses. The universe could begin to contract, to fall inward, to return to itself. This is known as the Big Crunch, a collapse of the universe into the same kind of singularity from which it began, the expansion that swallowed itself. It is a cycle, an inhale and an exhale on a cosmic scale, creation and destruction folded into one rhythm. And this rhythm lives in us too. We expand, we grow, we stretch ourselves into new versions, we chase ideas. We move outward into the world. But then, something shifts. We reach a limit, not a failure, but a curve. The same energy that pushed us outward begins to pull us inward. We return, not to the old self, but to the quiet center, to the essence beneath the expansion. Have you ever chased something so hard, only to find yourself right back where you started? Not because you lost, but because the journey itself led you home. That is the swallowing, the return, the collapse that is not destruction but clarity. In life, we often fear contraction. We fear slowing down, letting go, shrinking back. But maybe that is just the other side of expansion, not an end, a folding, a deepening. The wave rises, and then it falls. Not because it failed, but because that is its nature. You do not have to keep pushing forever. You are allowed to return, to rest, to reflect. Let your expansion swallow itself when it is time. Let your growth fold into stillness. Let your forward motion pause so you can find what has always been at your center. The universe does not fear cycles. It lives by them. So can you. The field that forgets it exists. Imagine standing in the middle of a wide open meadow. There is nothing above, nothing below, nothing to interrupt the calm, just space stretching endlessly in every direction. But now imagine that this space is alive, not with noise, not with movement, but with something invisible, a presence that fills everything and connects everything, a field. And then imagine this field forgetting that it is there. This is the field that forgets it exists. In the deepest levels of physics, fields are more fundamental than particles. You are taught to think of things as made of small pieces, like atoms and electrons. But beneath those particles is something more constant, a field. Every particle is just a small ripple in a field, a bump, a wave. The field itself stretches across space, quiet, invisible, always present. But what if this field could forget? What if the field became so identified with its ripples, with its disturbances, that it no longer remembered it was the space beneath the noise? Now imagine that this field is your mind, your awareness. You are not the thought. You are not the emotion. You are the space in which the thought moves, the space that allows the feeling. The field is always there, but it forgets. It gets caught in the wave and thinks that is all it is. You think you are your worries, your memories, your voice. But those are just ripples. You are the field. You are the space that holds them. Every time you lose yourself in anxiety, in fear, in comparison, you are forgetting the field. You are remembering only the waves. But those waves rise and fall. They come and go. The field remains. Calm, wide, aware. Try this. Sit quietly and let your thoughts come. Watch them. Feel how they rise, stretch, and pass. Do not follow them. Do not fight them. Just notice that between every thought there is a pause. That pause is not nothing. It is you. It is the field remembering itself. When you become the watcher, not the thing being watched, you begin to remember. You begin to return to the place inside you that never moves, even when the surface is wild. In life, the field is always working. When you walk, it supports your balance. When you speak, it holds your words. When you sleep, it breathes beneath your dreams. It does not ask for recognition, it simply gives. But when the field forgets, the identity becomes small. It becomes the ripple. It starts to fear. It starts to grasp. It thinks it needs to be more. But it already is everything. The secret is this: you do not need to become the field. You already are. You just need to stop forgetting. You just need to sit still long enough to feel that the awareness inside you is not just a reaction to life. It is the background in which life appears. You are the field that forgets. But you can also be the field that remembers. Every breath is a doorway. Every moment of stillness is a return. And when you remember, the waves no longer control you. They move through you. But they do not shake what you are. The field that forgets it exists is never truly gone. It just waits patiently for you to notice, to remember, to return. The signal that travels without speed. Picture two people standing on opposite sides of a mountain. They cannot see each other. They cannot hear each other. But at the same moment, they both pause. They both smile. They both feel something they cannot explain. A message has passed between them, but no word was spoken. No step was taken. It moved without delay. It arrived without traveling. This is the signal that travels without speed. In quantum physics, there is something called entanglement. Two particles become linked in such a way that the state of one instantly affects the other, no matter how far apart they are. This connection happens faster than light, not because something is moving quickly, but because the movement is not required at all. The change is instant, as if space itself does not apply. It breaks the idea of distance. It breaks the idea of time. Because the connection is deeper than space. It is not local. It is not bound by where or when. Now think of your own life. Have you ever known something without being told? Felt someone's presence before they arrived? Thought of someone just before they called? These are the subtle echoes of connection that do not obey the rules of space. You are not always sending. You are simply aware. You are taught that communication needs effort, needs speed, but sometimes the most powerful messages are the ones that happen without motion, without signal, just presence. This kind of connection comes when the mind is quiet, when the noise settles and something deeper speaks. It is not heard with ears. It is felt with being. It comes from alignment, from attunement, from stillness. Try this. Think of someone you care about, not with words. Just hold them in your awareness. Do not imagine a story, just their presence. Now sit with that and feel, not what you think of them, but what you feel around them. That space is where the signal lives. This signal is not a message from one point to another. It is a resonance between parts of the same field. You are not separate from what you connect to. You are already one with it. The signal is not traveling. It is revealing what is already linked. This changes how you relate to others. You no longer need to chase connection. You return to it. You do not need to send love. You become love. You do not need to understand everything. You allow the knowing that already exists. The signal that travels without speed reminds you that the most real things are the ones you cannot measure. Trust, intuition, presence. These are not sent like letters. They are felt like light. You can live from this place. You can stop trying to force the signal. You can rest into awareness. You can trust that what is real does not need time to arrive. When you quiet the thinking mind, the deeper signal comes through. Without speed, without struggle, without sound. The signal that travels without speed is already here, and so are you. You are not waiting for it. You are made of it. The equation that breaks itself. Picture a chalkboard filled with symbols, curves, letters, and numbers arranged in perfect balance. Every side equals the other. Every term fits like a puzzle piece. This is not just a collection of math. It is a rule, an equation that explains a truth of the universe. But now imagine this. As you look closer, the equation begins to tremble. One part grows unstable. A symbol shifts. A value no longer matches. The equation begins to break itself, not from the outside, from within. It is a strange thing to imagine that something designed to hold truth could destroy itself. But in physics, this happens. In some cases, the very rules we write to describe the universe predict their own breakdown. They reach a point where they cannot continue, a place where they no longer make sense. In general relativity, this point is called a singularity. The equations predict infinite density, infinite gravity, but infinities do not belong in nature. They are signs of the equation breaking down. It is like a language that can no longer describe what it is trying to say. The same happens in quantum field theory. Sometimes the calculations explode. The answer becomes infinity. And again, we know something is wrong. The equation is trying to describe something too deep, too chaotic, too raw for its structure to hold. This is not failure. This is discovery. The breakdown shows us where our knowledge ends. It shows us where a deeper truth must begin. In life, we write our own equations. We create beliefs, rules for how things are supposed to work. If I do this, I will be happy. If I avoid that, I will be safe. If I follow this path, everything will make sense. And for a time, those equations serve us. They guide us. They hold things together. But then, something changes. Life becomes more complex. A relationship cracks. A plan fails. A part of us evolves. And suddenly, the equation no longer works. The very logic that once comforted us now feels limiting. The rule book begins to fall apart. We try to fix it, to adjust it, but sometimes the only answer is to let it break. Let the old rule collapse. Let the old truth fall apart, because that collapse is not the end. It is the beginning of something wider, something truer. The equation that breaks itself is not broken. It is honest. It is reaching the edge of its design, and beyond that edge, a new equation waits, a new understanding, a new way of seeing the world. This is how growth works, not in perfect lines, but in fractures, in pauses, in those strange moments when we feel lost, but are actually on the edge of something deeper. So if you are watching your old equations fall apart, if the things that once made sense now confuse you, do not rush to replace them. Sit with the space they leave. Let yourself listen. Because sometimes the greatest truths are born where the old ones collapse. Let the equation break. Let it reveal what lies beyond structure. You are not meant to live within perfect math. You are meant to evolve through the mess that truth sometimes leaves behind, the dark that feeds stars. Imagine a room with no windows, no light, just silence and shadow. Now imagine that inside this darkness, something is growing, something bright, something warm. Not in spite of the dark, but because of it. This is what happens in the heart of space. Stars are not born in light, they are born in the dark. Deep in the coldest, blackest regions of the universe lie clouds of gas and dust. They stretch for light years. They block light. They absorb energy. They look empty. But inside, gravity is at work. Slowly, silently, it pulls the particles inward, tighter and tighter, until pressure and heat begin to rise. And then, in the middle of the darkness, a spark. A star is born. The light we see in the night sky came from the blackest places. The brightest fire began in silence. The dark fed the flame. This is not just science. It is a mirror. We live in a world that fears darkness. We run from it. We label it as pain, as failure, as loss. But maybe we are wrong. Maybe the dark is not empty. Maybe it is preparing us, feeding something inside us that cannot be born in light. Have you ever felt like you were lost in the dark? Like nothing made sense? Like you were sinking into something cold and silent? Maybe that was not the end. Maybe that was the beginning. Because growth does not always start with clarity. Sometimes it starts with confusion, with stillness, with solitude. That is the gravity. That is the pull, drawing you inward, closer to yourself, closer to the truth you were not ready to see in the light. The dark feeds the star. It gives it the space to form, the pressure to ignite, and when the light finally comes, it is not a rescue. It is a result. You are not weak when you are in the dark. You are becoming. The pain you feel, the questions that haunt you, the silence that surrounds you, they are not signs of failure. They are signs of formation. Let the darkness do its work. Let it hold you. Let it shape you. You do not need to light up everything right now. Stars are patient. They take millions of years to form. And when they shine, they carry the memory of the dark that made them. So will you. The dark that feeds stars is not cruel. It is sacred. It is the cradle of light. When you feel lost, remember the stars. Remember that every bright thing you admire once lived in the dark, and so can you. The observer who was observed. Picture this man, sitting alone in a small room, watching a candle flame flicker in front of him. His gaze is steady. His breath is quiet. He is observing with care, trying to understand the behavior of the flame. What makes it dance? What makes it lean this way or that? He is focused, believing that he is the one doing the watching. But somewhere deeper, something else is happening. The moment is watching him back. This is the observer who was observed. You are taught to believe you are separate from what you see, that you stand apart from the world and examine it from the outside. You look at nature. You look at others. You even look at yourself, as if there is a distance between the one who sees and the thing being seen. But what if the act of watching is not one way? What if awareness itself is mutual? In quantum experiments, there is something strange. When a particle is observed, it behaves differently. Its path changes. Its outcome shifts. It is as if the act of being watched changes what it is. But that shift is not only in the particle. It reflects back into the observer too. Observation is not passive. It is a relationship. And sometimes, what you are looking at is also looking into you. Now think about the moments in your life when you felt exposed, not by others, but by stillness, by silence, by your own attention turned inward. You thought you were reflecting on something, but suddenly you felt seen, as if your thoughts could no longer hide, as if your soul had opened a window and light poured in. You are not just the one who watches. You are also being watched by the very awareness you think you control. There is a deeper intelligence behind your gaze, a layer of self that notices even when you do not. It knows when you lie to yourself. It knows when you speak with truth. It feels your breath before you decide to breathe deeply. And this awareness is not something you create. It is something you remember. Something that has always been watching from behind your thoughts. Try this. Sit quietly and observe your mind. Watch the thoughts come and go like waves on a lake. Then pause. Ask silently, who is watching this? And then feel the answer not as a word, but as a presence. A soft, constant knowing that does not judge, does not speak, but is always there. That presence is not your mind. It is not your identity. It is the watcher behind the watcher. the part of you that never forgets. And once you realize this, something shifts. You no longer feel like a camera recording the world. You feel like part of the world's reflection. Everything you observe reflects something back: the person you admire, the pain you avoid, the sky you look at in wonder. These are not separate. They are mirrors. They are watching you too. The observer who was observed lives in everyone. It is the one who notices your noticing, the quiet eye behind your thinking. And when you stop trying to be in control of what you see and instead allow yourself to be seen by life, you experience something rare: humility, presence, connection. You are not outside this universe. You are inside it, and it is aware of you. Every time you sit in stillness, you return to this truth. The candle you watch flickers in response to breath. And maybe the flame is not the only thing dancing. Maybe you are too. The photon that refused to move. Imagine a single particle of light, a photon, suspended in space. It does not move forward. It does not travel through time. It simply is, floating at the edge of perception, refusing to obey the rule that everything must be in motion. It shines, but it does not run. It exists at the speed where time stands still. This is the photon that refused to move. In physics, light travels at the ultimate speed. Nothing in the known universe moves faster. But from the perspective of light itself, something strange happens. Time does not pass. For a photon, there is no journey, no distance, no before and after. It leaves a star and touches your eye in the same moment. From its view, the universe is not a long path. It is a single point. This breaks something deep in your understanding, because you are used to thinking of travel as movement. You go from one place to another. You take time. You grow older along the way. But light does not play by those rules. It refuses to move in the way you think movement works. And in that refusal, there is a lesson. You live your life chasing goals, chasing peace, chasing identity, always moving, always reaching, believing that progress is distance, that time is growth. But what if there is another way to exist? A way where presence replaces pursuit, where everything happens not by moving faster, but by standing still. The photon teaches that speed and stillness can be the same, that time is not the measure of being, that the deepest truths do not arrive after long effort. They are here already. They are found when you stop chasing. Try this. Sit for a moment and close your eyes. Forget about tomorrow. Forget about the story of who you were yesterday. Just be here. Feel the air on your skin, the quiet beat of your heart. Let everything else fade. Notice how full this moment is, even when nothing is happening. That fullness is what the photon knows. You do not need to go somewhere else to become who you are. The version of you that you imagine reaching in the future already exists here, not as an outcome, but as a presence waiting to be realized. You are like the photon. When you align with your own light, you stop being pulled by time. You stop being dragged by pressure. You begin to exist in a space where the moment is complete, whole, silent, alive. Even when you act, even when you move through the world, you can carry this stillness, this refusal to be rushed, this awareness that depth does not come from distance, but from how fully you arrive in the now. The photon that refused to move is not lazy. It is not stuck. It is in harmony with the structure of space and time. It exists where time folds, where motion becomes presence, where energy becomes awareness. You can live this way too. You do not need to race to keep up. You do not need to fill every second with movement. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is be still and shine. And in that stillness, something travels further than any step ever could. You touch not just space, you touch the whole field of being. The photon that refused to move never needed to. It was already there. Just like you, the universe that fits inside nothing. Imagine holding your hand open and being told that inside it lies everything, every star, every planet, every galaxy. The entire universe somehow fitting into a space so small it cannot be measured, not because it is compressed, but because it has not yet begun. A fullness that looks like emptiness, a whole universe hiding inside what we would call nothing. This is not a fantasy. This is one of the ideas behind the beginning of everything. Before the Big Bang, before time, before space, there was no size. There was no here. There was no there. There was only a singularity, a point of infinite potential, a seed smaller than an atom that held everything that would ever be. But this singularity was not an object in space. It was space itself, folded in on itself, undefined. The universe was not inside something. It was the something, and that something began inside nothing. This can feel impossible to picture, our minds like edges, like containers. But the origin of reality offers none. What we call nothing may not be emptiness at all. It may be a canvas, a silence full of sound not yet sung, a moment before all moments, and then, from that stillness, expansion, the unfolding of dimensions, the birth of distance, the slow drift from nowhere into somewhere. Space itself beginning to stretch, time itself beginning to tick, light finding a direction, matter learning to form. We look out now and see a vast sky, a universe so wide it feels eternal, but that width was once a dot, a breath held in place. And that breath lived inside nothing. What does this tell us? That nothing is not a void. It is not absence. It is hidden presence. It is the pause before the first note, the silence that holds the song. We often fear nothingness. We fear the blank, the unknown, the quiet moments when life feels empty. But maybe those are the places where everything is waiting. Have you ever been in a moment that felt like nothing? A day with no direction, a season of stillness, a pause you could not explain. And later, when you looked back, you saw that something had begun there, a thought, a change, a version of yourself quietly forming. The universe that fits inside nothing is not just a physical truth. It is a reflection of how all creation works. Great things do not always begin with noise. Sometimes they begin in silence. Sometimes the most powerful shift in your life starts in the quiet space you tried to rush through. You are allowed to sit with nothing. You are allowed to not know. You are allowed to hold space without answers. Because within that space, something vast is waiting. Not loud, not urgent, but ready. The universe did not burst into being because it was forced. It opened because it was full of energy, full of direction, full of the drive to become. You are made of that same substance. Your cells carry the story of that beginning. Your breath echoes the rhythm of that first expansion. So the next time you feel lost in the silence, the next time you find yourself standing in a space that feels like nothing, do not fear it. Hold it. Listen to it. Trust it. There may be a universe inside, the barrier that invites passage. Picture this man standing in front of a wall. It stretches wide and tall, cold and solid. He places his hand against it. It does not move. It does not break. But something about it feels strange. Not like it is saying, stop. More like it is saying, wait. Then, as he steps closer, a doorway appears. Not built, not carved, just revealed. As if the wall was never a barrier at all, but a test. A question asking, are you ready to walk through? In the world of quantum mechanics, there is a phenomenon called tunneling. A particle faces a barrier it should not be able to cross. According to classical rules, it does not have the energy to pass, but sometimes it does. It appears on the other side, not by climbing over, not by breaking through, but by simply being there, as if the barrier itself agreed to let it through. This is not magic. It is the strange logic of the quantum world, a world where certainty is replaced by possibility, where the rules are softer, where boundaries are not always what they seem. The idea of a barrier that invites passage is not just scientific, it is emotional, it is spiritual, it lives in our experiences. We all face walls, limits, moments where something says no, a failure, a loss, a rejection, a closed door. But what if these barriers are not meant to block us? What if they are asking for presence? What if they are waiting for courage? Some walls are not built to keep you out. They are built to show you how much you want in. They ask if you are willing to stay, to look deeper, to change shape. In your life, there will be thresholds that do not open at first touch. They will ask you to pause, to listen, to let go of something before stepping forward. And sometimes, just like the particle, you find yourself on the other side without knowing exactly how, because your persistence shifted the probability, because your presence changed the space. We think of barriers as blocks, but some are mirrors. They show you yourself. They ask you to see what part of you is holding back, what fear still clings, what story you are still believing. And when you meet the barrier with awareness, something softens, the wall becomes a gate, not through force, but through alignment. This is not about pushing harder, it is about seeing clearly, feeling deeply, trusting that what seems like resistance may be invitation. Even in nature, resistance is often a guide. Rivers meet rocks but do not stop. They flow around. Wind meets mountains but keeps moving. Trees grow through cracks in concrete. Life does not fear barriers. It speaks through them. So when you face a wall, do not only see the end, look for the edge. Feel the energy it holds. Ask what it is trying to teach. Not every barrier needs to be broken. Some need to be understood. The barrier that invites passage does not scream. It does not chase. It waits. It listens for your readiness. And when you meet it not with fear, but with awareness, it opens, not with a sound, not with a flash, but with a quiet shift. The wall becomes a path. And you realize it was never separate from you. It was made of the same material as your becoming. You walk through, not because the barrier disappeared, but because you changed the way you moved. The horizon that pulls minds. Imagine standing at the edge of a desert just before the sun rises. The sand is cool beneath your feet. The wind carries silence. In the distance, the sky is beginning to shift, not completely light, not fully dark. A faint orange line appears across the edge of the world. The horizon. You stare at it without meaning to. Something about it holds your attention. You cannot touch it. You cannot reach it, but it pulls you. This is the horizon that pulls minds. There is something deep inside you that leans toward what is not yet known. Something quiet but constant that reaches forward. You look at the future not just with hope or fear, but with curiosity, with a pull you cannot explain. The horizon never moves, but it never stays still either. As you walk, it walks with you. It is always ahead, always just out of reach, and that is what makes it powerful. In science, especially when we study black holes, the term event horizon describes a boundary, a point of no return. If anything crosses it, not even light can escape. But from the outside, it looks like time slows to a stop at that edge, as if the universe itself pauses to look inward. The horizon is not just a visual line, it is a boundary of thought, a symbol of everything that is just beyond your understanding. You chase it not because you need to, but because you are built to. In your own life, you have always moved toward something, an idea, a feeling, a version of yourself that feels more real than the one you know now. You might not be able to describe it clearly, but you feel its presence ahead of you, drawing you, quietly asking you to follow. It is not a goal. Goals can be reached. The horizon cannot. And that is the point. Because it is not there to be reached. It is there to guide movement, to inspire direction, to give the mind something to expand into. The mind needs something to lean toward. Without it, it collapses inward. It begins to loop, to repeat. But with a horizon, even if it is vague or blurry, the mind stretches. It imagines, it questions, it creates. Have you ever noticed how often your thoughts drift to what is next? Not always in anxiety, but in wonder. What will tomorrow bring? What does this feeling mean? What happens if I change? This is not distraction. This is the pull of the horizon. It is not taking you away from now. It is inviting you to meet the now with movement. But here is where it becomes subtle. The horizon pulls minds not just forward, but inward. As you follow it, you discover that it is not out there. It is inside you. The edge of your understanding is not the edge of the world. It is the edge of your awareness. And as your awareness grows, so does the horizon. Try this. Think of a question that has no clear answer. Something big, something you cannot resolve with logic. Maybe it is about life, maybe about love, or meaning. Hold that question in your mind. Do not rush to solve it. Just feel how your mind expands around it, how the space inside you shifts. That is the pull of the horizon at work. You do not need to understand everything to grow. You only need to stay in motion. Stay curious. Stay present with the not knowing. Even in your stillest moments, there is movement in you. The desire to explore. The readiness to become. This does not mean you are incomplete. It means you are alive. The horizon does not mock you by staying far. It honors you by always giving you something to walk toward, something to wonder about, something to stretch into. The key is not to chase it blindly. The key is to walk with it patiently. Let it teach you how to see, how to feel, how to live in the space between where you are and where your mind reaches. Sometimes the pull will be strong. You will feel called. You will feel lit from inside. Other times it will be quiet, a distant shimmer, a whisper of something more. In both cases, do not rush, do not push. Just stay open. The horizon is not a demand. It is a gift, a reminder that your mind is not made to sit still. It is made to travel, to expand, to imagine what has not yet been seen. And as you walk, you will find that the horizon changes shape. It reflects back your own becoming. It is not just a place in the distance, it is a mirror, showing you who you are becoming without needing to arrive. The horizon that pulls minds is not a finish line. It is a companion, a quiet signal that you are still growing, still searching, still breathing into the unknown. Let it pull you. Let it soften your grip on needing answers. Let it turn your questions into paths. And remember, even if you never reach it, you are never far from it. Because every step you take with awareness brings you closer to yourself. And that is the real horizon, the law that violates itself. Imagine a world where a rule is written in stone. It stands unshakable. A law so perfect, so universal, that everything must obey it. You follow its logic. You test it again and again. And every time, it proves itself right. Until one day, quietly, without warning, that same law breaks itself. Not because something attacked it, not because someone cheated, but because the law itself carries the seed of its own undoing. The rule that should always hold, suddenly, collapses. And you are left not with chaos, but with a deeper understanding that the law was never about control. It was about change. In physics, there are rules we call conservation laws. These are principles that say certain things can never be created or destroyed. Energy must always remain constant. Charge must always be balanced. Symmetry must always be preserved. These are not just ideas. They are the foundation of how we understand the universe. But in the world of quantum mechanics and cosmology, even these sacred rules begin to bend. There are situations where particles appear to vanish, or appear from nothing, where energy seems to fluctuate without a clear source, where symmetry breaks itself in the early moments of the universe. One such case is the idea of spontaneous symmetry breaking. A system starts in perfect balance, everything equal, everything aligned. But as it evolves, it chooses a direction, it picks a side, and in doing so, It breaks the very symmetry that once defined it. This breaking is not a mistake. It is a birth, a transition into something more complex. Another case is the violation of certain laws in black holes. According to general relativity, nothing can escape a black hole, but quantum theory suggests that particles do escape. This is known as Hawking radiation. The very law that governs the black hole is being undone by the same physics that created it. These examples are not contradictions. They are transformations. The law does not fail because it is weak. It evolves because it is alive. And in life, the same pattern appears. We build beliefs, internal rules, ideas of how the world works, how people should behave, how we must act to feel safe, successful, or loved. These become our personal laws, and often they serve us. They guide us through pain. They give us structure when things fall apart. But then something changes. A new experience arrives. A deep truth is felt. A contradiction appears, and the old law begins to crack. You may feel like something is wrong, like you are breaking your own rule, but maybe the rule is breaking itself, because it has reached its limit, because it is ready to become something more. Think about a time in your life when you realized that a belief you once held no longer fit. Maybe you believed you had to always be strong, or always be kind, or always be certain, and then life showed you a different side. It revealed that strength can be softness, that kindness needs boundaries, that certainty can block growth. In that moment, it is not that you failed your rule. It is that your rule transformed. This is what it means when a law violates itself. It reaches a depth where it must let go of its old form to make room for something new. It is not disobedience. It is maturity. We are taught to see rules as fixed, but the most powerful ones are fluid. They evolve with us. They adapt as our understanding grows. Nature shows us this. In evolution, species adapt by changing the very code that once kept them stable. In relationships, love deepens not by staying the same, but by breaking the old agreements and forming new ones. In learning, wisdom grows not by protecting old answers, but by questioning them. So if you find yourself standing in a moment where something you believed no longer feels true, do not panic. Do not shame yourself. Listen to what is emerging. What new insight is being born from the crack? What new pattern is waiting beyond the collapse? You are not meant to live inside unbreakable rules. You are meant to walk with them until they invite you to change. The law that violates itself is not dangerous. It is honest. It is what happens when truth meets life. Let your inner rules evolve. Let your beliefs breathe. Let your systems break when they are ready. You are not here to obey the same law forever. You are here to discover the deeper laws hiding beneath. And often, those laws will only reveal themselves after the old ones step aside. So stand still in the moment of collapse. Watch carefully. The truth you are about to discover is not a punishment. It is a doorway. And on the other side, a new kind of order waits. One that includes everything you were and everything you are becoming. The mass that hides in emptiness. Picture this. You are looking into space through a telescope. You see galaxies spinning, stars being born and stars dying. You see beauty. You see motion. But most of what you are looking at is not stars. It is not even light. It is darkness. Vast stretches of nothing. Or at least it looks like nothing. But what if that darkness is not empty? What if it is heavy? What if the mass is hiding where you least expect it? This is the mass that hides in emptiness. In physics, there is a strange truth. Most of the universe is made of something we cannot see. We call it dark matter, not because it is evil or mysterious in a fearful way, but because it does not shine, it does not reflect, it does not interact with light, but it holds weight. It pulls stars into spirals. It shapes galaxies. It holds structure together. We cannot see it, but we know it is there because of how it affects everything around it. Now bring that into your own life. Think of the things that seem invisible inside you, the parts you do not show, the spaces you feel are empty, the quiet moments, the long pauses, the stretches of time where nothing seems to be happening. What if those are the places where your real weight lives? We often think value comes from action, from being seen, from what shines. But the truth is, much of your inner gravity comes from what is hidden, from what does not demand attention, from what is still. You carry mass that no one can see, the strength to hold your silence, the courage to wait when others rush, the quiet persistence of healing when no one is watching. These are heavy things, and they live in the emptiness you try to fill. In the structure of the atom, there's more space than substance. If you were to scale up an atom to the size of a stadium, the nucleus would be like a tiny grain in the center. The rest is space, and yet this space does not collapse. It holds shape. It gives identity. Emptiness is not weakness. It is structure. You are like that. There is space in you, space that holds feelings, space that allows thought to move, space that makes room for others to be seen. You do not need to fill that space with noise. You do not need to prove your presence with constant movement. Sometimes your greatest gravity is in the calm you bring. Try this. Sit alone for a while and notice the space inside your body. Do not focus only on thoughts. Focus on the feeling of being here, on the stillness beneath the thoughts. You may feel like there is nothing, but that nothing is something. It is your awareness holding shape. It is the mass beneath the surface. We often try to measure ourselves by how much we do, but mass does not depend on movement. A stone has weight even when it lies still, and so do you. Your value is not in your performance, it is in your presence. The world is fast, it rewards light, it notices what shines. But what holds the world together is often what does not appear, the dark matter, the quiet structure, the force that never asks for recognition but without which nothing would stay in place. Think of your relationships, the people who always show up, even if they do not speak much, the ones who listen, the ones who offer space. These people may not stand in the spotlight, but they hold the shape of connection. They are the gravity in the room. You are not here to always shine. You are not here to always explain. You are here to be present, to be real. And sometimes that means being like the mass that hides in emptiness, quiet, still, but unshakable. Your fears, your doubts, your unspoken hopes, these live in the places you have not shared, but that does not make them less true. That does not make them weak. They are part of your field. They pull you toward truth. They shape your path even when you do not notice. And in your stillest moments, when it feels like you are doing nothing, that is when the deepest changes happen. Because that is when you stop fighting gravity. You start allowing your own weight to settle. You start remembering that you do not need to be more. You only need to be. The mass that hides in emptiness is not something to fix. It is something to feel. It is something to trust. You do not need to fill the space. You need to honor it. Let your presence be enough. Let your silence hold power. Let the unseen parts of you speak through the way you stand, the way you breathe, the way you remain grounded even when everything around you shifts. You are not made of light alone. You are also made of what does not shine, and that is not a flaw. That is structure. That is strength. That is the foundation of the entire universe, and it is also the foundation of you, the particle that refused identity. Picture this. A scientist tries to pin down a single particle in a field of many. They try to name it, label it, follow its path, but every time they look, it slips, it blurs, it changes. Not because it is moving too fast, but because it refuses to be defined. It behaves like the others, but it is never quite one of them. It belongs, and it doesn't. It shows up in the data, but not in the way they expect. The more they measure it, the less certain they become. They call it a particle, but it seems to reject even that. As if what it truly is cannot be contained by any single identity. In the world of quantum mechanics, particles can be identical in every measurable way, yet still behave as if they are many and one at the same time. Electrons, for example, are considered indistinguishable, not just similar, but without identity. If you swap two of them, the universe does not notice. There is no mark, no name tag, no way to tell which was which. They are defined only by the field they belong to, not by their own separate story. But some theories suggest there may be particles that push this even further, particles that refuse any fixed label, that exist in a superposition not just of location, but of nature. One moment they behave like a fermion, the next like a boson. One moment they are spin up, the next spin down. Not by flipping, but by simply never settling. A constant becoming. This may sound like science fiction, but it reflects something very real about how existence works at the smallest levels, at the place where identity is less like a title and more like a wave, a blur, a question still being asked. And maybe that is not just about physics. Maybe that is about us. How many times have you felt the pressure to define yourself, to be one thing, to choose a label, to pick a side? You are asked to explain who you are, to declare it, to stick to it. And yet, inside, you feel the truth shifting. You are many things. You are not always the same. Some days, you are strong. Some days, you are soft. Some moments, you lead. Others, you follow. At times, you feel deeply connected to the world. At times, you feel like a stranger in it. And when someone tries to box you in, you may smile politely. You may nod. But inside, something in you refuses, not out of rebellion, but out of honesty. You are not a fixed point. You are a process. Like the particle that refuses identity, you are not here to be captured in a single word. You are here to move, to shift, to surprise even yourself. There is a quiet wisdom in this. A peace that comes from not having to always know exactly who you are, because identity is not always something to declare. Sometimes it is something to live. The world may ask for certainty, but your truth may live in uncertainty. The world may ask for categories, but your spirit may live in questions. And this does not mean you are lost. It means you are alive. It means you are not settling for shallow definitions. It means you are listening to the deeper voice that says, I am still becoming. Think about water. It takes the shape of whatever holds it. It can be solid, liquid, vapor. It can change state and still remain itself. You are like that too. You do not have to pick one face to wear. You do not have to pick one name to hold forever. You are allowed to flow between versions of yourself. You are allowed to change shape and still stay true. The particle that refused identity does not disappear. It remains present, powerful, essential. It simply reminds us that being undefined is not the same as being unreal. In fact, it might be the most real state of all. Because what is identity, if not a moment in motion? A frame in a film? A point on a curve? You are not static. You are dynamic. You are a field of possibilities. And your refusal to be reduced is your greatest power. So when the world asks you to explain yourself, remember this. You do not owe anyone a fixed answer. You are not less because you are more than one thing. Let yourself unfold. Let yourself remain open. Let yourself be like the particle that knows truth, cannot always be named. Sometimes the most honest thing you can say is, I am still becoming, and that is enough. The frame that painted the law. Picture this moment, a child sitting quietly with a coloring book, staring at a blank page with only a single black frame drawn on it. No shapes inside, no instructions, just an empty rectangle. But something in that simple frame invites the child to begin, to draw, to imagine, to create something where nothing was before. The frame does not tell the child what to draw. It simply holds the space where drawing becomes possible. This is the frame that painted the law. In science, we often speak of laws as unchanging: gravity, motion, energy. These rules seem to govern everything. But where did they come from? Are they written into the fabric of the universe like permanent ink? Or are they patterns that emerge within a deeper kind of space? A space defined not by force, but by permission, a frame. Before there was light, before time even moved, there may have been something formless, a field, a potential, a canvas that did not yet know what picture it would hold. And then, from within that silence, something emerged. Not a rule, but a rhythm. Not a law, but a possibility. And the universe began to paint. Now take this idea inward, into the way you experience your own life. You often think of the rules that shape your world as fixed. What you believe about time, about effort, about love. You follow habits, you obey limits, you accept certain laws without question. But what if those laws are not absolute? What if they were painted by a frame you carry inside? A way of seeing that quietly decides what can and cannot be. Frames do not shout, they do not argue. They simply set the boundary where attention gathers. They decide what is allowed into view, and once that view becomes familiar, you forget there was ever anything outside it. Your identity is a frame. Your story is a frame. Even your sense of truth is shaped by the edge around your thinking, not because someone forced it on you, but because you needed something to begin painting with. You grew up in a certain environment. You heard certain phrases again and again. You were told what mattered, what success looked like, what failure meant. These were not always rules. Often, they were just quiet outlines, invisible edges around your inner canvas, but you accepted them, and slowly those frames painted the laws you now follow. You think you must always work hard to be worthy. That is a law. You think you must be understood by others to feel safe. That is a law. You believe certain things about your past that you never question. Each one is part of a frame, but none of them are final. None of them are fixed. The law was painted, which means it can also be repainted. Try this. Think of a belief you hold deeply, something that feels like truth. Now ask, when did I first believe this? Was it taught? Was it repeated? Or did I choose it freely? You may find that the law did not appear by itself. It was painted slowly by experiences, by fear, by love, by survival. And once the frame was set, the law came naturally. But now you are aware. Now you can hold the frame in your hands. You can ask if it still fits, if it still opens the right space, or if it is time to shift its shape. There is no shame in having painted laws. That is how the mind organizes reality. But the deeper wisdom comes in knowing that every law began as a possibility, as a brushstroke on a blank field. The laws of physics were not discovered all at once. They were revealed slowly as our frames of thought expanded. First, we thought the earth was flat. Then we believed the sun revolved around us. Then we found gravity. Then relativity. Then quantum fields. Each step was not just a discovery, it was a widening of the frame, a fresh look at what was possible. You are on the same journey. The moment you change how you frame your life, new laws begin to appear. What once felt impossible becomes simple. What once felt certain becomes soft. And the most powerful changes do not come from breaking the law. They come from shifting the frame that made the law seem absolute in the first place. The frame that painted the law still lives in you, not to trap you, but to show you how reality responds to attention. You are not locked in the picture, you are holding the brush. Every day, you have the chance to ask, what frame am I using to see this moment? What law is being reinforced by how I look? And what happens if I step outside that frame? Even just a little. Sometimes you will find resistance. Your mind may try to protect the frame. It will say, this is how it has always been. But you do not need to fight the old law. You only need to paint a wider space. A space where something new can happen. The universe is still painting, you are still painting, and the law is not final. It is just the shape your vision takes until it grows again. Let your awareness become the frame. Let your stillness become the canvas. And let the law be something that flows, not something that traps. You are not bound by what was once true. You are free to create again, and this time, the frame is yours to design, the beginning that waits at the end. Imagine walking down a path that stretches further than you can see. You walk for hours, then days, then what feels like a lifetime. Every step takes something from you. The weight of memories, the echo of choices, the shape of everything you once called yourself. You keep walking, believing the end must be near. And finally, you see it, the last turn, the closing of the path. But when you arrive, it does not feel like an ending at all. It feels like the beginning, not a return, not a repeat, but something deeper, as if the end had always been waiting to become the start. This idea is not just poetic, it is written in the very design of nature. Cycles, loops, spirals. Nothing ends without beginning something else. In stars, in seasons, in stories, the ending folds gently into the start. What we often think of as a final moment is often just a transition, a reshaping, a new name for the same energy moving through a new door. In physics, there is a theory that the universe will not simply die, that its final moment will contain the birth of something else, that after all the stars have faded and all the matter has dissolved, what remains will be more than silence. It will be seed. Even now, we do not know for certain if time is a straight line or a circle. We experience it one way, but the deepest mathematics of the cosmos suggest it might loop, or fold, or spiral back on itself in ways our minds cannot yet hold. And if that is true out there, maybe it is also true in here. Because endings do not only happen in the sky, they happen in you. Every change you go through, every chapter that closes, every person who leaves, every moment that feels like loss. These are the little ends, the soft collapses, and sometimes they feel final, like the page is done and the story is over. But if you look more closely, if you breathe into the silence that follows something ending, you will find something small and still beginning. A thought, a shift, a quiet sense that you are not the same. You are not broken. You are being reformed. Endings have this strange way of stripping away what was never real, what was borrowed, what was held too tightly. They leave behind what is raw, what is true, what is ready to grow. You might not see it at first, because grief can be heavy, because the closing of something familiar can make you feel smaller. But inside that space, new life is stretching. The beginning is patient. It waits. It does not shout. It does not rush. It waits at the edge of your letting go. And when you are ready, it enters. Not with fanfare, not with bright colors, but with breath, with clarity, with the sense that something unnamed has arrived. You are not who you were before. You are not who you thought you had to be. You are something else now. Something still unfolding, and that unfolding began the moment the ending found you. There is a kind of wisdom in this, a rhythm. You can feel it in music too. The last note of one song is often the first sound of the next. In stories, the final line echoes forward into the beginning of another idea. You are part of that rhythm. Every time you think you are finished, life will offer you a doorway. Every time you think something has died, it will become the root of something new. This is not about false hope. It is not about pretending everything is good. Some endings hurt. Some endings take time to process. But even in that space, the next beginning is present. It may be hidden, but it is not absent. Sometimes it begins as rest, as silence, as the strange stillness of not knowing what comes next. Let that be okay. Let yourself pause, because beginnings are not always loud. Sometimes they are slow. Sometimes they look like doing nothing, but they are happening. You do not need to force them. You only need to stay present enough to notice when they arrive. They will come. Quietly, like breath after a long exhale, like light that rises without asking, like morning after the night has emptied itself. The end is not against you. It is your turning point, your unseen ally. It is shaping the space you need to grow into. Let it do its work. Let it be what it is. And when the silence opens just wide enough, walk gently into the beginning that has always been waiting. Now picture this. You are standing at the edge of a shore. Behind you is everything you have known, the familiar land of your past, the choices you made, the roles you played, the people you loved and lost. In front of you is an ocean that stretches without clear end. There is no map, no promise of safety, just a quiet invitation to step forward. And yet, you hesitate. Not because you do not want to move, but because something inside still clings to the shape you were. This is what the beginning feels like when it arrives. It does not always feel like freedom. Sometimes it feels like fear, like emptiness, like floating, because when something ends, the space it leaves behind is wide and echoing. We want to rush to fill it, to find something new, to hold on to anything that feels solid. But the beginning that truly waits for you is not a replacement. It is a transformation. And transformation needs space. You are not meant to become someone else overnight. You are meant to dissolve slowly into a deeper version of yourself. The beginning waits not for your strength, but for your surrender. It waits for you to stop pretending you know what comes next. It waits for you to sit in the unknown without panic, because the unknown is not your enemy. It is your cocoon. Think of the caterpillar. It does not climb out of its skin and become a butterfly in one motion. It melts. It breaks down completely inside the chrysalis. Its shape is lost. Its body is undone. And only then does the new form begin to take shape. Your new self might need the same undoing. You may feel like you do not recognize yourself right now. You may feel softer, more open, more uncertain than you ever have. But this is not weakness. This is the middle, the space between the end and the beginning, the place where one story is still whispering its last words while the next one is drawing breath. This middle space is sacred. It is quiet. It is subtle. But it is not still. It is where your roots begin to grow deeper, where your questions become the soil for new truths, where your silence begins to teach you things that noise never could. In this space, you do not need to rush. You do not need to perform. You only need to stay present with what is real. Maybe you are grieving. Maybe you are tired. Maybe you are confused. Let those feelings be. They are not in the way. They are the way. The beginning that waits at the end does not arrive through force. It arrives through openness, through softness, through the willingness to feel. You are not falling behind. You are falling inward, and as you fall, something quiet starts to rise. A sense, a shift, a faint pull towards something that does not have a name yet. That is the beginning, not the start of a new chapter, but the beginning of you reading your story with new eyes. The story has not changed, but you have. The things that once hurt you begin to look different, not smaller, but softer, less sharp. The regrets that once haunted you lose their weight. The people who left your life no longer pull you backward. They remain, yes, but their presence no longer steals your breath. They become part of your becoming, part of your tapestry. And this is the strange gift of endings. They make space for a more honest beginning, one that is not built on escape, but on truth. You begin to see yourself more clearly, not as you were taught to be, not as others needed you to be, but as you are. Not perfect, not finished, but real. The beginning is not always a job, or a move, or a moment of inspiration. Sometimes it is a quiet decision to stop pretending, to stop shrinking, to stop carrying what was never yours. Sometimes it is as simple as letting go of a sentence you always told yourself. I am not enough. I am too late. I am too broken. These are not truths, they are habits, and the beginning waits for you to notice that. It does not ask for a plan. It does not ask for perfection. It only asks for presence. So take a breath, a slow one. Let it rise all the way into your chest, and let it fall back down. Feel the rhythm of your body returning to itself. You do not need to be anyone else today. You do not need to prove anything. You are already standing in the doorway. The end has passed. The silence has opened, and something inside you is listening. Do not search for the next chapter with force. Let it find you. Let it rise like morning light, not with noise, but with clarity. It may come as a thought that feels warm, a desire to create, a hunger to speak, a curiosity that pulls you out of bed. These are signs, not of pressure, but of possibility. Follow them, not to chase something, but to return to something, to the part of you that has been waiting to be seen. The beginning is not out there. It is already here, in your body, in your breath, in your willingness to see this moment for what it is, an opening, a gentle arrival, a quiet yes, not to the world, but to yourself. Now imagine this. You wake up one morning, and for the first time in a long while, the heaviness is a little lighter. The questions are still there, but they do not press as hard. The silence is still present, but now it feels more like a space you can breathe in, rather than a void you are lost in. You step out of bed, and the light through the window feels different, not brighter, just clearer, like the world is not rushing you anymore, like it is walking with you. This is what it feels like when the beginning finally takes shape. It does not arrive with fireworks. It arrives in the way you carry yourself, in the way you listen, in the way you no longer pretend to be smaller than you are. The beginning that waits at the end does not introduce itself loudly. It becomes you. It moves in your gestures. It softens your voice. It steadies your steps. You are not who you were when you started the path. You are not even the person who reached the end. You are someone else now. Not because something outside changed, but because something inside finally unfolded. And this unfolding was not the result of certainty. It was the result of staying present in uncertainty. You allowed the end to do its work. You let the silence hold you. You stopped running. And in that stillness, a deeper rhythm emerged, one that did not come from effort, but from alignment. This is how all true beginnings feel. Not forced, not invented, but remembered. Like something ancient that was always part of you finally being given a place to return to. You begin to move with more intention. You begin to speak with more truth. You say no when you need to. You say yes when you mean it. You no longer shape yourself to fit spaces that were never meant to hold you. And this, too, is part of the beginning. Learning what to leave behind. Learning that not everything belongs in the next part of the story. Some dreams served their time. Some people were only meant to walk with you to a certain turn. Some versions of yourself were necessary for survival, but no longer needed for growth. Let them go, not with anger, not with bitterness, but with a quiet thank you. They were bridges. They brought you here, but they are not where you are going. The beginning calls for lightness, not because life will be easy, but because you will no longer carry what was never yours. You will begin again, with less weight, with fewer masks, with a deeper kind of strength, one that comes not from what you show the world, but from what you no longer hide from yourself. You will start to feel the quiet joy that comes not from having it all figured out, but from simply knowing you are on your way. You do not need to rush. The beginning moves with you, not ahead of you. It does not demand perfection. It asks for honesty, for gentleness, for courage in the softest sense, the kind of courage that stays, that breathes, that listens. And the more you walk, the more you realize that beginnings are not one-time events. They happen again and again, Each moment that you choose presence over distraction, each breath where you come back to your body, each pause where you stop running from yourself, these are beginnings, and they wait for you at every edge. Every time something ends, every time something breaks, every time you find yourself in silence again, the beginning will be there. Not to replace what was lost, but to remind you that nothing is ever truly gone. It is simply moving into a new shape. The you that is arriving is not disconnected from the you that struggled. They are one. The pain made you softer. The questions made you deeper. The waiting made you wiser. And now, here you are, still walking, still breathing, still willing to feel. That is the beginning. And that beginning is not in front of you. It is you. And that's it. Hope you're in peace. Just consider subscribing, because sleep matters. Just then, stress scatters and nothing else matters, right? Peace out.